for all.
Thank you.
Ready, Greg?
Yep.
All right. The purpose of today's hearing is to examine the security collapse in Haiti and the international response to it. Armed gangs led by U.S. designated foreign terrorist organizations Vive Ensemble and Grand Griffe now control an estimated 90% of Port-au-Prince, have displaced more than 1.4 million people, and are working to supplant the Haitian state. The hearing will assess the failure of the previous multinational security support mission, the design, deployment, and funding of its successor, the Gang Suppression Force. In addition, the Haitian police and their military have been severely weakened, in part due to the legal migration, which has allowed gangs to take control of areas like Port-au-Prince, a situation that has got so bad that the Haitian National Police had officers start picking up their paychecks in person due to so many leaving and still receiving their direct deposits. So there is a security crisis there that we want to examine. That's created a cost burden for the United States and our allies alike to the tune of billions of dollars. I would now recognize myself for an opening statement. 700 miles from my home state of Florida, terrorist organizations control the Haiti national capital. They don't influence it, they control it. They hold an estimated 90% of Port-au-Prince. They have displaced more than 1.4 million. They murder, they kidnap, they rape, they castrate, they feed people what they castrate. They extort the Haitian people on a massive scale. They seek to replace the Haitian state with something that answers to them. The consequences of a fully collapsed Haiti will not just stay in Haiti. It goes without saying that mass illegal immigration from a country explicitly governed as a safe haven for terrorists and traffickers would be harmful to America's interests and those of our allies. Here's what makes this oversight hearing different. We have already run the experiment of getting this wrong. The previous administration's answer to stabilizing Haiti was the failed UN Multinational Security Support Mission, or the MSS, a program to bring in foreigners from places like Kenya and Chad to take on gangs while costing the American taxpayer over $1 billion. In total, over $1 million per Kenyan that they sent into the country. Don't take my word for that. The State Department told this committee that the mission was, quote, an ineffective boondoggle. When the last Kenyan officers flew home this past April, Haiti's gangs controlled more territory than the day the mission began. That is the definition of failure. This is exactly why I advocated for not sending any contributions to the United Nations, because this is the kind of boondoggles that they run. The United Nations authorized mission that replaced it, the Gang Suppression Force, is built differently and hopefully learns from the mistakes of the past. It is more kinetic force with a direct action mandate to unilaterally take the fight to the gangs. This is not just a police support mission, it's about eliminating terrorist gangs. On paper, its costs are shared, assessed across the United Nations member states, with an American share of about $117 million a year. That's far better than the over $1 billion that we spent in a year previously. I say on paper because in practice, the American taxpayer is still underwriting this mission, and we will get to that. These operations began June 1. As I said, I want this mission to succeed, but wanting and hope are not strategies. So today, this committee needs three things. First, we need the mission's benchmarks for success. The mission's special representative owed the United Nations Security Council a strategy by July 1st. So today, we need to find out, are its benchmarks real or just aspirational? And what happens if some of them are missed? Second, apart from our assessed contribution, the administration has rolled out bilateral assistance piece by piece up to $40 million in bridge and sustainment funds, $68 million in equipment, a police recruitment surge, support for Haiti's armed forces, and now counterterrorism funds with no specific dollar figure attached. That money, by the State Department's own accounting, is going toward, among other things, buying meals ready to eat and bottled water, a bill that the department itself says belongs to those countries, not us. We were promised a force that learned the lessons of the MSS, but the U.S. taxpayers, on top of the check we've already written, is still underwriting this mission's food and water. How much will this new GSF cost American citizens? Third, we need honesty about what comes next and the significant challenges that remain. The UN mandate for the GSF expires on September 30th, before this force even reaches full strength. The first elections in a decade are scheduled for August, but Haiti's insecurity makes those unlikely. And a private company paid by Haiti, not by the American taxpayer, is putting the gangs on their heels with no more than 150 people. Vectis Global, run by Eric Prince. Our own diplomats credit it with altering the momentum and the geometry of this fight, again with 150 individuals. If 150 contractors can do that, a 5,500-person UN force should have zero excuses, though that's all we received with the MSS mission. To our witnesses, this committee is looking for candor. Tell us what is working. Tell us what is not. Tell us what you need. Helping Haiti is not impossible, but the lesson of the last mission was that failure was obvious for nearly 2 years, yet nobody changed course. That will not happen on this committee's watch, and I would now recognize Ranking Member Meeks from New York for any opening statement that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for calling this hearing, and thank you to our witnesses for being here. And I just want to point out that I'd love for this committee also to be, if we're talking about a little penny pinching, and especially when it comes to Haiti, let's put it into perspective. You know, when you think about, there was I think the chairman said close to $1 billion are being spent in Haiti. But we're spending more than double that, $2 billion each day in the president's war of choice in Iran. Still no hearings or oversight from this committee. This administration has spent about 5 times that amount on the Maduro raid and boat strikes in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific without showing Congress that it has prevented a single overdose death, taxpayer money being spent. Over $300 million in taxpayer money has been directed toward the White House ballroom. And I can go on, whether you're talking about the reflection pool and some other things that this president has been utilizing the taxpayer dollars, which just does not make any sense to the American people. So I think that if we are going to look at some of the spending issues, I would think that we should start looking at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And for years, you know, true, Haiti has endured a convergence of violence, political instability, economic collapse, and humanitarian suffering that has no parallel in our hemisphere. Armed gangs control large parts of Haiti's capital. Families have been driven from their homes. Women and children face gender-based violence. Hospitals struggle to function. Schools have closed. Nearly 5.7 million Haitians, half of the country, face acute food insecurity. And while we may not all agree on the best approach to addressing this crisis, I believe we can all agree that the United States Haiti policy under Democratic and Republican administrations alike has fallen short. Closing the gap is not only a matter of conscience, it's a matter of national and regional security. Helping Haiti overcome this crisis is not charity. It's a strategic investment in a safer and more prosperous hemisphere. But in so doing, we must recognize that another U.S.-imposed solution will not work. Haiti's future cannot be designed in Washington, New York, or Geneva. Lasting progress must be Haitian-led and accountable to the Haitian people. The United States should offer sustained support, and we must work with like-minded countries around the world, but as partners, not as architects. That brings me to the Gang Suppression Force. With proper implementation, the GSF can help Haitian authorities push back against gangs, secure critical infrastructure, and create the conditions for Haitians to begin rebuilding their country. I hope it is successful. But we must also be honest about what the GSF cannot do. It cannot replace legitimate governance. It cannot substitute for long-term investments in institutions, economic opportunity, or public trust. You can capture or kill gang members, but if you do not address the broken political and economic system that creates, finances, and replenishes these gangs, the cycle of violence will only continue. The GSF mission is not paired with a serious political process, humanitarian relief, and a plan to reclaim gang-controlled territory. Then any gains will be temporary. Security without a political and economic strategy is not a solution, it's only a pause. A security mission in Haiti must also be accompanied by disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration programs. Haitian humanitarian assistance must flow alongside security assistance because Haitians need food, medicine, and shelter. That means that the Trump administration must bring forward a comprehensive strategy equal to the scale of the crises. The administration should start by reversing its own damaging policies. The gutting of U.S. foreign aid has hit Haiti particularly hard. And even as the administration warns Americans against traveling to Haiti, it claims the island is safe enough to end temporary protective status and deport some 350,000 Haitians. This is not just cruel, it's contradictory, and it will only exacerbate instability in Haiti. Next, the administration must identify and hold accountable those members of Haiti's political and economic elite who are supporting the gangs. It has failed to do so adequately, despite a congressional mandate by which the Congress, the bipartisan Haiti Criminal Collusion Transparency Act, which became law last year. Congress must do more as well. I introduced the SOC per se in Haiti Act with Representative Murphy of North Carolina that would require the State Department to develop a comprehensive strategy to counter instability in Haiti. Congress should pass that today. Lastly, and unless Congress reauthorizes HELP for an extended period, jobs that are a lifeline for Haitians fleeing gang violence will evaporate. So support for Haiti has long been bipartisan, backing in Congress, and because the American people understand the suffering that Haitian people have endured and want to help. After the 2010 earthquake killed more than 300,000 people, Americans across the country mobilized because that is who we are. The United States has a responsibility to lead. We must do so in a way that avoids repeating the mistakes of the past, centers Haitian voices, delivers the partnership this moment demands. So I look forward to our discussion today and hearing how this administration intends to be the partner that this moment calls for. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member Meeks. Other members of the committee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record. We're pleased to have a distinguished panel of witnesses before us today on this important topic. The Honorable Michael Kozak, Senior Bureau Official for the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs at the U.S. Department of State, and Colonel Justin Gorkowski, co-lead of the Haiti Gang Suppression Force Tiger Team at the U.S. Department of War. This committee recognizes the importance of the issues before us and is grateful to have you here to speak with us today. Your full statements will be made a part of the record, and I'll ask each of you try to keep your spoken remarks to about 5 minutes in order to allow time for member questions. And Ambassador Kozak, I recognize you for any opening statement that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Mast, Ranking Member Meeks, distinguished members of the committee, the U.S. overarching objective in Haiti is baseline stability. A network of armed groups threaten to take over the Haitian state while destabilizing the region. We estimate the gangs have approximately 3,000 well-armed fighters. The former MSS mission supported only 1,000 police with no clear mandate. They cost over $500,000 per person per year. Last September, the United States and Panama led the UN Security Council's adoption of Resolution 2793. With this new mandate, the United States as chair and 5 other regional countries make up the standing group of partners, and they've recruited qualified participating states to deploy as a gang suppression force. UN logistics will support the GSF, a burden previously incurred almost entirely by U.S. taxpayers. This UN mandate authorized the deployment of up to 5,500 uniformed military and police personnel to conduct intelligence-led targeted operations to neutralize, isolate, and deter the gangs, to secure critical infrastructure, and to enhance the operational capacity of the Haitian security forces through joint planning and operations. We are getting more than 5 times the forces, while the overall enterprise will cost the U.S. approximately 1/5 of what we were spending with the MSS. So 5 times more bang for 1/5 of the bucks. The civilian staff component led by GFS Special Representative Jack Christofides provides on-the-ground support, oversight, and accountability for the force. The Organization of American States is involved as a key regional stakeholder body, and I'm pleased to announce that at the OAS General Assembly just last month, the OAS unanimously called for renewal of the mandate by the UN Security Council. Very important in dealing with threats of veto by Russia and China. That was a decisive factor, I think, last year, having the region completely together. In the coming weeks, more troops and their equipment will arrive and hold more territory. The department is working with UN professionals to ensure the right pieces are positioned for success. As the GSF helps Haiti retake and secure terrain, strategic infrastructure, and vital supply and transit routes, the force is working to put itself out of business. One of the first tasks of the special representatives was to define an exit strategy with measurable objectives, performance indicators, and an implementation timeline, which he submitted to the Standing Group of Partners in the UN Security Council on June 29. Perhaps most significantly, Haiti's leadership is intent on building its own capacity. This includes a 40% expansion of the Haitian police this year and reconstituting the military for the first time in decades. The Haitian government sees holding the first elections in 10 years as critical to stability. It's not that just the gangs got stronger, it was that the government got weaker. Haiti's interim government is preparing for national elections, paving the way for an elected government next year. Economically, Haiti's priority is creating an alternative to gang enlistment. U.S. trade preference programs such as Hope Help Act support a significant number of jobs. We share the Haitian government's interest in strengthening that and would like to see a multi-year reauthorization of Help Hope. Haiti's problems are grave, but progress is achievable this year. The GSF will ramp up to full operations in coming months. The Haitian people and their interim government are determined to regain military and police capacity to protect their own homeland and close a dark chapter. Now is the time to solidify the path for Haiti's future, for their benefit, as well as for the United States and the broader region. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member.
Thank you, Ambassador. Colonel Gorkowski, I now recognize you for any opening statement you'd like to give.
Thank you, sir. Chairman Mast, Ranking Member Meeks, distinguished members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today about Haiti and the Gang Suppression Force. I'm pleased to begin today's testimony by informing you that exactly 1 month ago, the Gang Suppression Force initiated operations to retake territory in Haiti previously controlled by terrorist gangs, resulting in several detainees, weapons seized, and incendiary devices destroyed. This may seem trivial, but it represents a significant benchmark for stabilization efforts soon to come. We've learned more about Haitian gangs in the past 30 days than the previous 30 months. Today, I will provide a brief overview of the force we designed to address the problem, expected deployment timelines, and considerations for the future force. My focus is security, on which all Haitian stability rests. Let's begin with a clear articulation of the problem. The absence of governance in Haiti has created opportunities for informal power structures to thrive through use of force, financial independence, intimidation, and terrorism. Over 20 different gang leaders deploy their foot soldiers to fight for control over Haiti's territory and dwindling resources. These gang leaders, whose forces outnumber Haitian security force personnel, dictate daily life in the territories they control by providing security, jobs, school supplies, and condolence payments. This threat is multifaceted and has become entrenched within the corrupt fabric of Haiti's political and economic elites. These are not simple gangs that can be jailed and prosecuted. This isn't West Side Story. This threat requires a predominantly military solution. And we designed the GSF to address the threat I just described, differentiating it from previous multinational force interventions. The international peacekeeping apparatus is ineffective against this threat. Instead, unlike the previous MSS, we opted for an intelligence-driven, military-heavy solution to conduct counter-gang operations. In collaboration with our Haitian partners, we designed this novel approach to source military and police forces from the international community, and we challenged the UN to adapt their historic practices in a manner to sustain these forces in austere environments. This new hybrid approach, forward-leaning security operations underpinned by the UN logistical support structure, offers the best chance of regaining territorial control from the gangs. So how's it working out? To manage expectations, operations just began in mid-June and have far to go. This year, we selected a special representative, Jack Christofides, to lead the mission, as well as Force Commander Major General Erdenbat Batsuri and his headquarters staff from Mongolia. We adjudicated over 17,500 pledges from 19 countries to optimize a fighting force of 5,500 personnel from 10 countries. Together with the UN, we have deployed about 1,100 security personnel from 6 of these countries since April and are preparing to open our second area of operations. We expect to be at full operational capability this fall, distinct from full strength. As with any new approach, this mission has its challenges. We continue to push the UN to think creatively and repackage its concept of support in Haiti to evolve from peacekeeping to direct support to security operations. This hybrid UN-supported approach results in considerable savings to the American taxpayer, from over $1 billion over 2 years to $119 million annually, reflecting a 78% annual reduction, while also attracting massive interest from troop and police contributing countries due to familiarity and experience with the UN brand. We still have a few months until we are at full capacity, but there are indications the force we've designed will achieve its objectives. Our goal now is to get the remaining personnel from the other 4 countries deployed as fast as possible to consolidate gains and hold the territory we clear, while diplomatically we pursue mandate renewal. We must simultaneously facilitate growth of the Haitian security forces. This is critical, while integrating them into operations so they can secure their own country. Through full implementation of the GSF, the international community places Haitian security forces in the best position to take full responsibility for their own country's security. The hybrid approach we've taken with the UN is the best available solution to a national security threat less than 700 miles from American shores. I welcome your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. I'm going to alternate between Republicans and Democrats for about 5 minutes of questions for each person. I'm going to begin with Representative Smith.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to both of you. First of all, I want to, Mike Kozak has been a leader for over 50 years. I've worked with him with the OSCE, worked with him when he was the ambassador to Belarus, and I've certainly been working on that issue much of my time here, and so many other important postings. Havana, Cuba, as the chief of mission, a wealth of experience, and not just knowledge, but a wisdom, and I want to thank you for that tremendous leadership you have shown over so many years, and welcome to you, Colonel, as well. Just a couple of questions. I'm the author of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, and matter of fact, right now, Kwesi Mufuni and I are trying to reauthorize it with a Frederick Douglass Act. We're hoping to get it on the floor soon. But Haiti has been a special case of trafficking. Years ago, I held a series of hearings with Nancy Brevard and others from the Airline Ambassadors International, and they broke up trafficking rings law enforcement did, but they were the eyes and ears as flight attendants. When all of these kids were coming up from Haiti, being sold into modern-day slavery as little kids. Horrific abuse. And I'm wondering if, with all of the work you're doing and trying to do, if you could shed any light on what's being done now to try to mitigate this exploitation of children and women through trafficking rings. Secondly, the church. I don't want to go too long, we only get 5 minutes, but the churches, what role are they playing? Because usually the faith community can play a very positive role. Obviously, when the guys are running around with the gangs with guns, it's harder, obviously. And as you said, it's not that the gangs have gotten stronger, but the government has gotten weaker. So I wonder what we can do to further fortify their message from the pulpit, from the cardinals to the priest in the pulpit and every other part of the faith community. And finally, I remember when the Harlan County was turned back, that ship, because there were a few protesters out on the docks. the mistakes that were made with the Clintons after the horrific earthquake. I've read books about it and have spoken about it. And when they didn't really do the job of rebuilding that should have been done. And I just hope, I know we're going to get it right this time. At least I believe we will, especially with your wisdom being brought to bear on all of this. So trafficking, children, and the church.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, also from past days, and thanks for the kind words. On the trafficking front, I mean, this is what we're trying to shut off throughout the whole region, not just in Haiti, but as you say, that there's been some particularly horrific abuses in the past. But by our ability to have stopped illegal immigration coming in, I think we've helped in that respect. But the other thing you find is that the same groups that are trafficking humans are trafficking drugs, they're trafficking arms in the other direction, and so on. And one of the reasons that the administration declared the gangs to be foreign terrorist organizations was that gives us some extra tools. We can prosecute people in the United States who provide material support to such an organization. And we've seen some evidence of this already with a couple of the Haitian elite type leaders who were living in the United States and financing these kinds of bad activities in Haiti, losing their immigration status and having to leave the country. So there'll be hopefully more of that to come, but we're trying to put a real law enforcement effort on there. Churches, you're absolutely right, are one of the linchpins of the place and are trying to stabilize people. It's interesting, though, is Mr. Meeks mentioned the need for a Haitian-led solution. When you do polling in Haiti now, something like 90% of the population really want an elected government. They want to pick their own government. They've had too many years of well-intended foreigners picking people for them, usually not on the grounds that they were going to be the best leader, but because the people they were picking could cause, having their gang connections, could cause disarray in the streets, and said, oh, we need to bring them into the government in order to avoid them trying to overthrow the government. Bad idea. That has not worked out at all well. So I think that's what we're hearing a lot from the churches too, is let's get moving on, and we see it reflected in the views of the Prime Minister of Haiti that elections are very, very important to get to that kind of Haitian-led government. And then finally, I will observe I was around when the Harlan County steamed away. That was a very, very bad day because it totally discredited the whole international effort at the time. So. We do not want that to happen again. This time we got to make it work, and make it work so that you end up with a Haiti that's Haitian-led and stable. Again, I put in a plug for the Hope Help Act because I think our view is the way to get Haiti to be self-sufficient and so on is it's got to be able to attract investment that will create jobs and so on, and not have it be jobs created by the government with aid funds from other countries. So that would be my points. Thank you.
Ranking Member Meeks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, Karen, I want to thank you. I want you to know that I am 100% support and behind you and want you to be successful. Because without security, we can't make the next step. And so that's really important. And I'm ready to work with anybody that's going to make that happen. So I listen to you intently. I don't disagree with you. I think that we need to make sure that we have the security on the ground so that we can then have the implementation that the ambassador was just talking about of creating a Haitian-led government. But we can't do it without security. So I just want you to know that. Now, my concern goes towards, Mr. Ambassador, that on November 28th, the DHS issued a notice terminating TPS for Haiti, which is really my focus. And they said that there are no extraordinary and temporary conditions in Haiti that prevent the Haitian nationals from returning in safety. So I want to know, after Secretary Noam made the decision She said she did it with consultation of other partners, et cetera. But can you tell me, was the Department of State consulted by Secretary Noam's decision to terminate TPS for Haiti? Were you consulted or anything of that nature? I know where you were previously, and Mr. Smith talked about your great work, humanitarian work, but were you consulted on that at all? Mr. Ambassador?
Were we consulted on?
Yes.
I don't believe so, sir. But I would observe that you have to look at the security. I mean, we do provide DHS with country conditions reports, and in Haiti, there, as the Prime Minister will tell you, out of the 10 departments of Haiti, he said we could have elections in 7 of them tomorrow. That they're stable and life goes on as normal. It's Port-au-Prince and Artibonite and the West that are the
Which is
problem
huge,
areas.
where most of the population is. But what I'm really trying to be focused on here is, we've got over 300,000 Haitians that may be pushed back into Haiti, given the conditions that I heard the Colonel talking about earlier, and there was, for example, roughly 5,600 homicides in 2024 alone, almost 157% increase from 2022, according to the UN. And the State Department's own travel advisory rates Port-au-Prince as a critical threat crime for location. So I was wondering, and I don't know whether you can or not, and at the same time, the president, of course, the administration has expanded refugee admissions for white Afrikaners from South Africa, citing safety concerns there. But I see and hear and listen to you intently of the safety concerns that are taking place currently in Haiti. I don't know if you can walk the committee through the department's assessment of Haiti that may have led the administration to conclude that it was safe to end TPS for Haitians. This is something that members in my constituency, I have a large Haitian constituency, are asking me intensively. So I was wondering if there's a way that you can give us or walk us through how it's now safe for these individuals, or how it was determined that it was safe for these individuals to come back to Haiti.
Well, Congressman, I'm not the greatest expert on TPS, but I would observe that with respect to all these different countries that had TPS, many of these have been temporary, that have gone on for decades. We had in Central America TPS status that was granted because of hurricanes that occurred in the 90s. In the case of Haiti, I think it was the earthquake in 2010.
I understand. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm limited on time.
Yeah.
But because, we're talking about an influx, and I don't see if they have an additional 300,000 people coming in, given the scenario, that's going to help, even help the colonel with what he's trying to do. The other thing that I just wanted to ask real quickly, I had a bill that passed in a bipartisan way called the Haitian Criminal Collusion Transparency Act, passed with bipartisan support. So it was the intent of the bill is to go after those individuals that are running the corrupt political and economic networks that finance the gangs, traffic weapons, and profit from Haiti's instability. Because it seems to me that they've gone by with impunity, and I think that we've got to go on. So I was wondering if you could tell me, if you know, have any individuals been sanctioned in Haiti in response to the bipartisan report, that are supporting and putting the money in? I haven't heard of any, but do you know whether or not anybody has been sanctioned? Mm-hmm.
Well, I mentioned the people who were expelled from the United States. They lost their LPR status because of that kind of behavior. Others have been sanctioned. I cannot tell you which of the different legal authorities were used for those sanctions, but there are people who have OFAC sanctions on them because of their financing of the gangs and
So let me just say this.
behavior.
I think it's important that if someone has been sanctioned, we need to know their names. The Haitian people need to know their names. Because when I talk to the Haitian people on the ground, they say these people continue to walk around with impunity. And that makes them afraid also. So that's why we passed this bipartisan way. those names should be given to you. Those names should be exposed to the general public so that the Haitian people in America know that these folks are not walking around with impunity, and that we're going to make sure that they are held accountable for supporting, financing, et cetera, the violence that continues to take place in Haiti. We got to get rid of them so that so the colonel can be successful. We create the institutions and we have the elections that you're talking about. I yield back.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you very much, Chairman Brian Mast, for bringing these tremendous witnesses here today on such an important issue. And in particular, Ambassador Kozak, you're so appreciated with your service in Minsk, Havana, now helping focus on Port-au-Prince. We're all hopeful for fair and free elections in these countries of Belarus, Cuba, and even Haiti. And nobody can accuse you of being sent to luxurious Caribbean operations. With that in mind, too, I'm so grateful for Ranking Member Meeks, who is promoting today bipartisanship with Chairman Brian Mast. And Ambassador, the administration has called the Biden-era MSS mission an ineffective boondoggle. It costs the American taxpayers nearly $1 billion to field roughly 1,000 personnel, mostly police, with no mandate to take on the gangs. And can you verify again one more time how much per patrolman that is?
Yeah, I think it works out to about $500,000 per person per year. Not a very good ratio there for.
Well, that's just startling, and the American people need to know that. Even
Yep.
Congressman Scott Perry didn't know that, and so it's an amazing fact, sadly, to be acknowledged. When the final contingent left in April, the gangs control more territory than when the mission began. What is the State Department's assessment of what went wrong, and what does that failure tell us how the United States should approach missions going forward?
Well, I'll look to the Colonel to comment too, but I'd just say from my standpoint, I think it's both quantity and quality. That 1,000 people was not nearly enough to deal with the threat that existed. And on the other hand, it's the mandate. They were supposed to be there to support the Haitian police, which is was a completely decimated bunch. And not to be able to go out and run operations of their own. So that's what we've tried to correct with the Gang Suppression Force, is to make it much bigger. In the meantime, too, our colleagues in the Bureau of Narcotics and Law Enforcement have been working with the Haitian government to train up another 4,000 police by next year. So the police right now on the books, I think it's about 13,000. The actual people who show up on any given day are probably more like 6,000, and of those, something like 400 do most of the fighting. So the whole idea here is to get the Haitians beefed up, but also to have the Gang Suppression Force sizable enough and with a more military kinetic type mandate where they can go out, clear these bad guys out of an area, and then have enough Haitian forces to come in and take it. The Kenyans would go on patrol and mix it up with the gangs, but as soon as they left, the gangs were right back there again because there was nobody to hold the territory at all. So those were some of the problems that they faced, as well as just having a extreme tooth-to-tail ratio in favor of the tail. Over.
Indeed, I'm glad, General, that all of this is being monitored. Bangladesh should be applauded, Ambassador, to provide the Gang Suppression Task Force largest contingent, nearly 1,600 personnel, and the schedule counts on more than double the force in September. But Bangladesh had to freeze its deployment once this spring, and now it's being delayed again. What can we do to help the courageous people of Bangladesh to be able to participate? And General.
Yeah, thank you, Congressman. That's a good question. I'm very thrilled to state today that Bangladesh is in good shape for the deployment. Their deployment is back on track. They have conducted 2 reconnaissance visits to Port-au-Prince, including with their senior leadership. They have repledged all the forces that were pledged previously, and they are on full glide slope to deploy as anticipated. So we're in good position. In fact, I will be traveling to Bangladesh on the 8th of August to do the pre-deployment visit.
Well, indeed, it's so refreshing to see the country of Bangladesh have such a participation and be so recognized by the United States and even in the Western Hemisphere. So thank you for your service and again, assisting the military of Bangladesh. I yield back.
Thank you, Representative Wilson. My understanding of the TPS was actually that it so decimated the police force. That's in part why they were not there to support the MSS. They were the police force had to start going to telling people they had to pick up their checks in person because so many of them came to the United States and kept collecting their direct deposits that there were no police there to do the work that they were supposed to be doing. Big problem.
Indeed, I was wondering how they're being paid. Thank you.
Representative Keating.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kozak, fair to say in Haiti there's a fair amount of crime and kidnapping and terrorism and unrest and healthcare capacities severely constrained. Don't you agree?
Certainly in the areas that the gangs have controlled, there's a lot of that type of behavior.
Yeah, Colonel, that's why you're there and you're doing your work, and we appreciate your work there. If that's the case, and I guess that's why the State Department issued a do not travel advisory in the area because of those severe risks. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir, but I would note that the do not travel advisory or any of our travel advisories are aimed at the risks posed to American visiting a country, not necessarily
So you're trying to say
the
you're saying all the crime and everything else there is just
No,
on
but
Americans, they're not on other Haitians?
if you're looking at kidnappings and so on,
Right.
Americans are juicy targets for kidnappers
sure, but-
because you can extort a lot of.
But the crimes are there, and there are also crimes imposed on other Haitians that are there and other peoples that are there. I mean, they're just not saying, let's do
yes,
crime to
there-
Americans. So
there-
that being
crime-
the case,
Crime affects people across the board, but
So
travel
let me answer
advisory
this,
is
if I
aimed at
could.
Americans.
if the crime is so severe, and we have a colonel who's leading an effort at suppression of those gangs, then with 350,000 Haitians who are on TPS, temporary protective status here, and these are adults, and they have work permits, and they're in positions in my state and others of critical need, long-term care, hospitals, hospitalities, agriculture. I mean, these are people that are here. So what's the purpose? There's a contradiction, obviously, in the staff. It's not safe. We have a task force, a gang suppression force there, militarily, and these people were given status because of that danger. Now, it's all of a sudden safe to send them back? Can you explain that contradiction? It's an obvious contradiction.
Congressman, I would say note for. I don't know the figures for Haiti exactly, but when I look at TPS beneficiaries in other countries, usually one thing you'll find is that a great deal of that total number are people who've already adjusted status and have LPR status in the United States, so they probably won't be going back.
But the TPS people are, and there's 350,000
Yeah,
Haitians
but
in that
what
regard, and
I'm
I can tell
saying
you
is-
right now.
What I'm saying is when you look at the 350,000, if you dig deeper in your figures, you'll find those were beneficiaries originally, but many of them will have adjusted status during the decades that they were in the United States, and so that's not somebody who's going back.
Well, they're being told, these people are now having to give their employers notice right now. They're saying, hey, they're sending me back. And we're hearing from these employers, we're hearing from coworkers, we're hearing from chambers of commerce and industry leaders about that. And that's important to us here in the United States, but they're also, in terms of helping the people in Haiti, so many of these people are sending back remittances. They're working, they're saving, they're scrounging for what they have, and they're sending it back to their families there to help them. So why is this not a good thing? They're here, we're getting helped, They're here because they were in danger. Many of them were targeted, and as the colonel knows, these people from the early ages, 8, 9 years old, many of them are already being pressured into gang activities and future gang activities. So how can we take a win-win situation where we're helping people, helping the United States, helping our economy, and helping Haitians, because that money is coming back to help support families? We're taking a win-win situation, and you know what this administration is doing? It's making that win-win situation lose-lose. I mean, we're here with the State Department, and I'll say the State Department acted with its advisory, but what about the other administration members? Are you in contact at all with Stephen Miller? Have you ever talked to Stephen Miller?
Yes.
And what is he, doesn't he have this concern?
Not on this particular topic, but let me
If I could,
comment on
so
what
I'm
you-
just asking. So you never talked to Stephen Miller about this particular topic? Have you talked to Secretary Rubio about this particular topic? About what I raised here in my questioning?
Yes.
And what
But-
does he
but
have to
let
say? I
me-
mean, he's a
let me-
reasonable man.
Let me
He
comment back.
supported these things when he was in the Senate.
Yeah. TPS is supposed to be for people who are in the United States and an earthquake happens or something and you don't want
Oh,
to
it's
send them
also
back
for violence, sir.
immediately.
You know it yourself.
But
It's
what
if their
we've
lives are in
ended up-
jeopardy there with the
What we've
conditions, and
ended
the
up with,
colonel knows this, that's
Representative,
what
is
he's
people
doing.
using that for years and years and years. I mean, people who come here lawfully also send home remittances and so on, and that's a good thing.
Well, these
But-
people are
but-
here lawfully. They're here as part of that set. They are
Temporarily-
lawful. That's the point. I'm
temporarily,
afraid I'm going to have to yield back because my time is over.
Representative Kim.
Thank you, Chairman and Ranking Member Mix, for hosting today's hearing. And I want to thank Ambassador Kozak and Colonel Gorkowski for joining us today. The State Department's Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs developed the P4000 initiative to quickly train, recruit, and equip new Haitian national policy officers. And I know, Ambassador Kozak, you touched on this, so thank you for that. And I believe last fall, the program officially began training new Haitian national policy officers to combat armed gangs. Colonel Gorkowski, this mission's end state is a Haiti that can secure itself. Today, only 100 Haitian police officers do most of the fighting. The P4000 program is actively striving to train more, I understand. So what do you think is a realistic timeline for Haitian forces to take the lead? And what more do they need from us to get there?
Thanks for that question, Congresswoman. And this is an important one because this dictates our exit criteria for the Gang Suppression Force. So I can't emphasize this enough. The INL-supported P4000 program has been an extensive time multiplier in growing these forces. Not only are we growing the size of the forces, but they have changed the instruction to be more applicable not to disasters or things like this, but to the counter-gang operations they are conducting. To date, they have over 2,000 personnel who have gone through this, and by March of 27, that will be a 40% increase, 4,000 new security force personnel. So by the end of 2026, we should see an HMP number. The ambassador mentioned the total number around 14,000, but it's really only about 6,000 prior to P4000 who were coming to work every day. So by the end of 2026, we should have about 8,000 Haitian National Police, in addition to 2,000 FOD, Haitian military personnel. 2027 projections are around 10,000 Haitian police, and by 2028, we're looking at 13,000. So combined security forces, Haitian and military, by 2028, we're looking at about 19,000. Well, that begs the question, how many do we need? And if you add in the Gang Suppression Force, of course, you augment those numbers a little bit. In peacetime scenarios, academic figures and doctrinal figures state that you need about 2.8 security force personnel per 1,000 people. So for Haiti, that's about 30,000 personnel, over 30,000 personnel. If you combined Haitian National Police and military personnel without the Gang Suppression Force, we're probably looking somewhere 2029, but that's, again, without the Gang Suppression Force. Not saying the Gang Suppression Force needs to stay there that long, but that's the point at which Haiti will have some numbers able to secure themselves. There's also the issue of quality, right? Quantity and quality. We need folks who can, of course, be present, but also those who can do the job effectively and not contribute to a deteriorating security situation.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Kozak, the State Department has played a central role in supporting the Gang Suppression Force through diplomatic engagement with partner nations and the United Nations. So what specific diplomatic steps has the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs taken to secure and sustain contributions from these partner countries? And how are you addressing any gaps in participation or logistical challenges from international contributors?
So the question was about contributions to the force. I think there are two types here. One is as we mentioned in testimony, the logistics are being done through assessed contributions in the UN system. So the U.S. gets stuck with like 25% of that because that's our share of UN assessed contributions, but other UN members then are picking up the other 75% of the logistics. The pay, like for the salaries of the personnel and so on, is voluntary contributions. And we've had really very good response on that. Some of our colleagues in the standing group of partners, and particularly Canada, has taken on the job of urging others to contribute finances to that. And we've had contributions from Canada, from the Dominican Republic, Germany, France, Qatar. So there's a wide variety of countries that aren't part of the force that are contributing to that. And I think we have a fairly robust 117 million or something in that fund right now. So that's been the effort, and so far it's been quite successful.
Great. Well, thank you. My time's up. I yield back.
Representative Barra.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to associate myself with the ranking member's comments about TPS. I think it does betray our values as Americans, regardless of why the individuals came to the United States, sending them back into harm's way without the stability that we hope to accomplish in Haiti, I think is a betrayal of who we are as Americans. That said, the goal here is to create some stability in Haiti. I think my friend from New Jersey, Mr. Smith, talked about getting it right. That's been a challenge, right? We've tried multiple different things. We've tried external leadership. We've thrown money at situations, and we've had a worse situation today than we've had in a long time. And I think Chairman Mast talked about the proximity of Haiti to the United States, and to have a Mogadishu type situation in Port-au-Prince is not a good thing for stability in the United States either. I'd like to just go through stepwise what getting it right might look like, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong. Ambassador, you talked about we tried external leadership in Haiti and propping up external leaders. The Haitian people want a Haitian-led solution, so getting it right, the first step would be getting elections and allowing the Haitian people to elect a leader. That may not be a leader that we would have selected. That may be a different leader. It may be a leader that is a strong person who is going to bring stability to institutions and so forth. Step two would be rebuilding at least some semblance of functional institutions that can keep the energy on, that can educate their kids, create some stability. Reconstituting a police and security force. We won't get to 30,000 immediately, but you have to make that investment so the Haitians can protect themselves. Colonel, you talked about moving away from a peacekeeping force to a force that in some ways is a military force that can retake territory and hold territory. Part of what failed in the past was, I think, Ambassador, you talked about Kenyan forces and others going in, clearing areas, but not holding areas. Is that an accurate statement? So that would be starting with external forces to help clear territory, hold territory, but ultimately Haitian security forces long-term have to be able to hold that territory, right? Create peace and security. Is that an accurate statement? And then, I think there's got to be some economic hope in the future, right? So one key step is we extended the Hope Help Act for a year. That's going to expire. There is some urgency that we need to keep the Hope Act going. Would that be your assessment, Ambassador?
Yes, Representative. We favor a multi-year reauthorization of Hope Help because what you find is that businesses, if it's only year by year, the uncertainty means that they're going to move somewhere else where it's a little more stability. So we would be strongly in favor, administration strongly in favor of a multi-year reauthorization of Hope Help, and that helps your other issues as well.
Just from a security perspective, we should think about Port-au-Prince as one security challenge. We should think about other parts of Haiti where there's less gang activity, less lawlessness as a different type of challenge. Is that an accurate statement? So I've got a minute left. Based on that, is that the right priority? Elect a government, reestablish some functional institutions, build police and security forces, work with them to take and hold territory, and then rebuild some functional economy.
Yes, sir. I mean, I would say all of the above, and I don't think there's no reason that those various steps you just laid out can't be done in parallel to a great degree.
Colonel?
Yeah, just to emphasize that you can't, it's not a checklist, you can't do one and then the next. I know you know this, but these are all influencing each other. It's kind of a Gordian knot, and we have to make sure we have the appropriate amount of pressure on each one of those issues to move forward successfully.
And this is not going to be a 6-month proposition. This may be a longer-term proposition to create some stability.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. I'll yield back.
Thank you, Representative Barrett. Before I recognize Representative Radewagen, I will submit for the record the Haitian TPS authorization, which does outline the reason for the 2010 Haitian TPS, the 18-month TPS that went on for 16 years for catastrophic earthquake, loss of life, displacement, and collapse of infrastructure, as well as a few other things. Submit that for the record. Representative Radewagen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you and the ranking member for holding this important hearing today. My question is for Ambassador Kozak. Under Resolution 2793, the Special Representative was required to give the Security Council a strategy with concrete time-bound benchmarks no later than 9 months after adoption. That deadline, June 30th, passed 3 weeks ago, and no strategy has been made public. Was it delivered at all? Are its benchmarks genuinely measurable? And will you commit to providing them to this committee?
Congresswoman, my understanding is that the Special Representative did provide the benchmarks and so on the 29th of June. So just made it by a day, I think, the 9-month limit, but there is such a thing. Maybe the Colonel can describe it in a little more detail.
Yes, Congresswoman. So those were submitted. There are 3 major priority focus areas. They're in line with the mandate. So the first one is, of course, territory held by the gangs and ensuring that that territory is retaken, and the benchmarks are focused on achieving that. The second one is security of critical infrastructure. So everything from the seaports to the airports to the roadways to the borders, security of that infrastructure by Haitian security forces, the Gang Suppression Force initially is the second element. And then the third one is security forces of Haiti. So their growth and ability to take over that mission in the longer term. But those were provided on schedule, and they're working towards those goals now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back.
Representative Amo.
Thank you to our witnesses for being here. I'm grateful for your work. Today, we're discussing the dangerous conditions in Haiti while the Trump administration ends temporary protected status for around 350,000 Haitians. The administration has determined that there are no conditions that, quote, prevent Haitian nationals from returning in safety. The administration has claimed that Haiti is safe enough to deport TPS holders while simultaneously being so dangerous that it requires millions of dollars to support an international security mission. So let's state facts that have been affirmed by lots of the testimony in this hearing. Haiti is not a place where those under TPS can safely return. If the president moves forward with the deportation of Haitian TPS holders, he will be subjecting more than 300,000 people to extreme levels of violence, sexual exploitation, and a dire humanitarian crisis. That's 300,000 lives that will never be the same. In my home state of Rhode Island, over 1,700 Haitian TPS holders are facing this uncertainty and threat of violence. This pain won't be restricted to Haitian TPS holders and their loved ones. It will reverberate throughout our economy as our hospitals, long-term care facilities, schools, and small businesses lose the Haitian employees who keep our communities running. Haitian TPS holders make America stronger, contributing around $5.9 billion to the U.S. economy each year. Instead of supporting these businesses or simply upholding our values as a nation of immigrants, the president has decided to move forward to end TPS. Now, Trump hasn't started the mass deportation of TPS holders, and already more than half of Haitians are relying on humanitarian assistance. Adding hundreds of thousands more people to the already struggling island will only make the situation worse. In 2024, the United States provided around 60% of humanitarian assistance to Haiti. But Ambassador Kozak, up to 50% of the life-saving programs for healthcare, HIV treatment, food security, and clean water treatment were canceled during your tenure. In June, the United Nations effort to provide aid to Haitians only had 25% of the funds it needed and was forced to limit their life-saving operations to protect the 1.47 million people forced to flee their homes, the more than 5.8 million people facing acute food insecurity, and the crumbling health system. So, Ambassador, my question for you is, how do you plan to deal with the competing needs for healthcare, food, clean water, and security? Do you have a plan to seek additional funding to meet the moment and the challenges in Haiti?
Yes, sir. With respect to your last point, I don't have a total for you, but I know I sign off pretty frequently on grants for humanitarian assistance to Haiti. It's food, water, medicine, and I think it's in the hundreds of millions that we've provided. So, and as well as food under the Food for Peace program. So I am not aware that there's a big gap there. We've had no real problems getting the administration to provide the assistance that appears to be required for those purposes. So that.
And you don't believe that the reductions that we've seen have had a material impact on your ability to carry out the mission?
Yeah, I think you have to go back and look at all the different subcategories of aid and so on. But one of the things that was exempt from any cuts was life-saving assistance, such as food, medicine, water, and we've continued to provide that. So sometimes people will say, well, this program got canceled, and it's like, yeah, but we moved it to another funding mechanism, and it's still there.
And is it not the case that, so you're still executing, but is it not the case that some of the challenges will be exacerbated with the culmination of TPS?
Well, I think you can look at it both ways. As the chairman mentioned, some of those very productive people that you're mentioning could be very helpful in Haiti as police officers, as people working in business there. One of the problems I've seen with Haiti over the years is, even if you go back 30 years ago, they had nothing close to 30,000 security forces. They had always a lot fewer than that. Mm-hmm. And then successive governments relied on gangs to do some of the things that you would look to security forces to do.
Well,
and that's grown out of control. But you're not going to get the Haitians able to fund security forces of the kind they need until they've got some kind of an economy going, and that means having people there who can be productive.
Ambassador, my
so
time
it cuts both ways.
My time's expired, but I would conclude by saying this: the administration knows that Haiti's facing this humanitarian crisis, and adding more people to it only makes it worse. And so I hope the Secretary of State, the President, reverse the termination of TPS and continue to work with you to make the situation better. With that, I yield back.
Representative Perry.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, gentlemen, for being here. I think I need to make a comment on TPS since it's become the subject much of this committee and this hearing at this time. It seems to me my colleagues on the other side of the aisle must think that it sounds like that they would export all 12 million Haitians to America because it's so dangerous there. If the answer to making it secure is TPS, then the only other answer can be have every single citizen of Haiti come to the United States of America and leave Haiti. And I would just, which is, of course, patently absurd, as it should be. The other issue is if every good person in Haiti that's not involved in organized crime, gang activity, what have you, leaves Haiti, how is Haiti ever going to get better? Somebody has to love Haiti and want to save Haiti, and to me, it seems like that most likely is the good people of Haiti. With that having been said, I want to level set here, because I think we got to have a discussion of how we got here, where we are. Since the 2010 earthquake alone, the United States has provided over $5.1 billion in assistance to Haiti. USAID alone dispersed roughly $4.4 billion in that window, and the international community pledged upward of $13 billion. That's just that one disaster of a population of 12 million people. That's $1,500 per person. The United States has rebuilt clinics, funded elections, propped up governments, sent Marines in 1994, sent them again in 2004, backed the UN Stabilization Force for 13 years. Let's not forget, introduced a cholera epidemic that killed thousands of Haitians and triggered a sexual abuse scandal involving UN peacekeepers. And after all that spending and all that nation building, Haiti today has no functioning government, no elected president, no functioning police force capable of controlling its own capital, and gangs that by most estimates control the large majority of Port-au-Prince. We launched the Kenyan-led multinational security mission in 2024, and the administration itself has acknowledged we already spent roughly $1 billion on Haitian security assistance and pledged 300 more directly to that mission. And by nearly every account, it's been ineffective, undermanned, underfunded, unable to dislodge the gangs, and now we're told the answer is to relabel it, stand up the Gang Suppression Force, target 5,500 troops, and try again. I'm here to ask the committee, why should we believe, the people on this committee, the American people that we represent, that the fourth or fifth iteration of the same basic model, foreign troops, foreign funding, weak Haitian institutions, propped up indefinitely, produces a different result than the last 4 decades did? Every single metric of state capacity has gotten worse since we involved in this. It has not gotten better. That having been said, I'm glad that you've said that the benchmarks and the gate matrix were delivered to the Security Council by, I think you said, the 29th of June. Is that correct, Ambassador? So what I'm wondering, Colonel, I think your mission is a year. Is that about 12 months? Is that what it is?
The mandate was initially authorized for a year.
Okay, so we've got the metrics, we've got the timeline. How often will you assess your success or failure? And I don't mean failure in terms of personal, but look, the mission's either going to be successful or not. So how often and what iterations are you going to make that assessment? How will we find out? And what's the plan after a year if we're at the same place we are now or substantially at the same place?
Yeah, thanks for that important question, Congressman. So the frequency of assessment is quarterly. They owe that quarterly update on the benchmarks and metrics to the Gang Suppression Force standing group of partners. But the latter part of your question is incredibly important, which is at which point do we say, hey, we're not meeting the mark here? How do we need to adjust course? The reason it's quarterly is exactly for that purpose. We need to take in stride successes or failures and make adjustments. We need to be dynamic and able to adjust to meet the conditions I'll note that the threat we face now is nowhere near the threat that was faced prior to 2020. This is a completely different threat. 2 U.S. designated foreign terrorist organizations, increasing alliances between these separate gangs. The threat is significant, and we will only just be hitting our stride as the mandate needs to be renewed in October. So the measurement is important. We need to maintain agility to make adjustments, and that's what the standing group of partners, the oversight body, is for, which the United States.
So one final question. After the year has expired and elapsed, and the assessment is that we're no better off, which is, I think, the most likely outcome, are you willing to tell this committee that it's time to abandon at least that mission and either try something new, but not waste any more dollars on that particular? Are you prepared to do that if that's the case?
Yes, sir, that's my professional responsibility. However, I do not think that will be the case. We are already seeing the strides, the improvements that have been made just in the first 30 days of operations. I mentioned at the top, in the past 30 days, we've learned more about the gangs that we knew in the previous 30 months. So we are seeing the progress that's being made.
Thanks, Chairman. I yield.
Representative Gorkowski.
Thank you, Chairman Mast, Ranking Member Meeks, and to our witnesses for being here today. The stories coming out of Haiti are devastating. Poverty is deepening, governance is collapsing, families are being forced from their homes, and children are paying the highest price. More than 1,600 schools have closed because of violence, cutting 243,000 children off from education. For many of these kids, schools was the only place they received a meal. When education and safety collapse, child recruitment by armed gangs intensifies. In 2025, powerful gangs that now control large parts of the country nearly tripled their recruitment of children. Today, up to half of all armed groups in Haiti involve children. How terrible is that? In conflicts like this, children are treated as cheap and they're treated as expendable. And when poverty, hunger, and the absence of schooling leaves families with almost no alternatives, recruitment becomes almost inevitable. It's all part of the terrible realities of a war economy. One child reported earning $1,000 a week, a massive sum of money in a country where 60% of its population lives in poverty. In other cases, we hear terrifying stories of homeless children as young as 11 years old being recruited and forced to burn the bodies of those killed by gang members. My daughter will turn 11 years old this November. It's been more than 16 years since Haiti's 2010 earthquake. In that time, some families have been displaced again and again. Many of the armed group leaders today, and many of those in their ranks, were children in 2010 when their own schools were shut down, their communities destroyed, and their own futures never rebuilt. Now we are sadly seeing it happen over again. And these sad cycles are unlikely to change so long as the conditions for children remain unchanged. The UN Security Council laid out strong safeguard measures in the Haiti Gang Suppression Force's mandate. It required that child protection be taken fully into account in the planning and the conduct of its operations, and that apprehended children be referred to child protection actors and not detained. Colonel Gorkowski, can you speak to what specific child protection training GSF troops receive before deployment, and how compliance with handover protocols are monitored and reported?
Yes, thanks for that important question, Congressman. This is a very real challenge. As you noted, over 50% or around 50% of the gang population is comprised of children, and survival has become the only option in these areas that they operate. We accounted for this in our design of the Gang Suppression Force, and we reinforced our pre-deployment trainings. This is critical, about 6 weeks of training that each troop contributing country participates in prior to the deployment to Haiti. And this is standardized. It has to be signed off on by leadership, and we work closely with human rights professionals and international organizations to ensure that this type of training is included there. But additionally, and something new for the Gang Suppression Force, is a mandatory 2-week induction training. This is 2 weeks of training that every single individual who arrives in Haiti conducts in Haiti with Haitian officials, with Haitian experts, and with the Gang Suppression Force leadership as oversight and the special representative and staff as oversight. So this is another touch point that did not exist previously where we reinforce these critical components. And notably, phase one, day one, is when this training, specifically regarding children and human rights, is covered. So it is, and then, throughout the deployment, there are opportunities for retraining where we will look to address deficiencies and come back.
Appreciate that, Colonel. And I'll do a follow-up question in writing about ensuring children are treated as victims and not held in adult facilities, but happy to do that offline. Mr. Kozak, can you talk about what reintegration services and the State Department is using to currently support those who are demobilized or escaped child recruits, psychological care, psychosocial care, family reunification, education, et cetera, in the remaining 30 seconds?
Yes, Representative. I think under the way this has been structured in the UN, there's a UN office in Haiti that has responsibility for DDR, for disarmament and reintegration. It's a super important function, and I think you'll find also the Prime Minister of Haiti is very keen on it as well. His father was the chairman at one point of a demobilization reintegration group. So while the U.S. isn't supporting that unilaterally, we've seen to it that function is being covered. It's not part of the Gang Suppression Force. It's a separate UN activity, but it's a very important one that has to work for this all to work.
I appreciate that. I know we're facing a crisis. I just don't want to make sure we don't lose focus on our kids. I know my time has expired, so I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Issa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colonel, I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for the efforts you're making to make Haiti safer. Mr. Kozak, I'm going to put most of my questions toward you. Is it accurate to say Haiti is the poorest country in our hemisphere?
I think at this point that is accurate.
And as far back as 2004, we have had to use, force or threat of force to realign Haiti at times, including the removal of their president. That's just a piece of history, right?
I don't recall us removing their president. I think we
made him leave because he was putting neckties, which were tires around people, and lighting fires because, in fact, we had a problem that couldn't be solved anyway but the change of government. Is that historically right?
You're right about the neckties, necklaces as they called it, but he was doing that before there was a coup against him in the 90s. We helped put him back in power again. And then, interestingly, he was one of the people who really decimated the Haitian security forces. He had an opportunity to have a good, clean force and instead drove out most of the good people and tried to rule with gangs. And as I recall, in 2004, what caused his departure is that he and one of his gang colleagues had killed a gang leader, and the guy's brother, who was head of something called the Cannibal Army, marched on Port-au-Prince, and President Aristide was like, okay, where are the troops to save me? And the answer was, you got rid of them. So the U.S. helped him escape, but we did not remove him.
Okay, maybe that's a better way to put it. We can go back to Truman and find similar events of Haiti needing American aid because of normal weather events or political unrest. Is that also fair?
I think it's a very fair observation.
And Colonel, I know you know the story of Captain Murphy and Murphy's Law, like every good Army officer, but do you also know Einstein's definition of insanity?
Yes, sir. Doing the same thing, expecting the same results. Or different results.
So what you're doing has some nuance difference, but it's substantially something we've done before. My question to you, and the question that I will ask after a quarter of a century, including when Colin Powell and others were involved in 2004 in trying to stabilize Haiti once again, is what is it we are offering to do that will change a system of government that has failed its people, and people who neither have the money nor the resources nor the education to turn that around on their own. And I say that because after a quarter of a century just of my sitting here on the dais and starting down there when Secretary Powell first came, we obviously need something more than what we're doing. We need something different than we're doing, or we will continue to have Haitian boat people coming to America and either being turned around or not turned around, but this will continue unless the State Department, in concert with others, including other nations, offer a real different approach that will both stabilize the ability of people to have a government they deserve, and as all do, and in fact, a government that doesn't repeatedly disfavor the benefit of their people. Big job. Can you do it, and how? Don't look at the colonel. His job is just to make it safe.
Okay, I would, and I've seen a lot of this history myself, Representative. I said it's not pretty. One thing that's interesting, though, and we heard from some members of the committee this morning about how successful Haitians are when they come to the United States, and that I remember years ago there was a USA Today or something had a story about the most successful immigrant groups, and Haitians were right up there on top. So the problem is not Haitians, it's Haiti and the way it's been operated for years, the political culture there. We are trying to change that. This business of having, and I think you've seen it recently where we've gone after some of the politicians there because of their connections with the gangs. Political and economic leaders for years have used gangs to further their own private interests.
Well, I look forward to a further response. I know that Chairman has a heavy gavel, but I do want to thank you for the efforts, and I would like you to revise and extend with the things that would cause that to happen. And Mr. Chairman, if I can say, the artist who has the same last name as mine, who was a famous part of the Issa family in Haiti for decades, there was a time when Haiti was functional. That was a long time ago. So, Mr. Chairman, I look forward to the answer in writing and yield back.
Representative Stanton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for our witnesses. Today, Haiti faces a deepening humanitarian and security crisis. It's displaced over 1 million people, pushed the state toward the brink of collapse. Over the last year, gang control of Port-au-Prince expanded, internal displacement levels not seen since the 2010 earthquake, and this year's elections are likely to be postponed again, in large part due to insecurity in the country. The Trump administration helped establish the UN-backed Gang Suppression Force, GSF, that to empower a new force in Haiti to neutralize gangs rather than simply to play a support role for the Haitian National Police, a key difference from the existing US-backed multinational mission. To SBO Kozak and Colonel Gorkowski, the international community has spent more than $10 billion on security assistance for Haiti over the last 2 decades, with a significant portion coming from the United States taxpayers, yet significant security challenges still remain. For either witness, what is different about the Gang Suppression Force that should give us confidence that history is not being repeated? Colonel.
Congressman, thanks for that question. I really can't emphasize enough how much this is an apples and oranges situation. The Gang Suppression Force was fundamentally designed with the previous 11 multinational force interventions in mind, and it's different in a few very critical ways. The first way is the mission. This is a very much counter-gang offensive operation focused on the mission, neutralizing, isolating, and deterring the gang members and securing critical infrastructure in addition to security force personnel reinforcement. The second is size. This force is over 5 times larger than the MSS force, and then if you take into account the structure, the previous mission and perhaps missions mischaracterized the problem. They thought of this as a criminal problem. It is not. This is a proto-insurgency, and these folks really are on the verge of something significant if we can't stem the tide. So this is a 4/5 military structured force and 1/5 police force, at least at the beginning. And it is comprised of components from the air, the land, and the sea. We have a maritime component for maritime interdiction. We have an air component for aerial insertion and aerial interdiction. From a sustainment standpoint, we're dependent upon the UN. This is a critical distinction from the MSS. These troop contributing countries deploy with their own equipment. The previous mission, the United States Presidential Drawdown Authority, was used to provide equipment to these forces. So they fell in on equipment they didn't know how to drive, they didn't know how to operate. So fundamental difference there. And then from a leadership standpoint, we designed this force with a special representative and staff to observe and control critical functions that need oversight.
From your perspective, what does success for the Gang Suppression Force look like?
Yeah, so this is fundamentally a territorial problem, but as stated previously, with regards to the benchmarks and indicators, the first element is territory that's controlled by the gangs. That territory has to be retaken, and state functions have to be provided in those sections, in those areas. The second element is critical infrastructure. Right now, there's a no-TAM restriction on the airport because the gang threat. The gangs continuously shut down the seaport because of threats of violence and tolls. Critical infrastructure must be secured, and we can measure that in terms of geography. And the last element is Haitian security forces. So we are way under the amount of forces needed. The United States support of the HMP has been instrumental, but we need more of it. Over.
Of course, we're focused in on not just short-term violence reduction, but long-term stability for Haiti and the people of Haiti. What steps is the administration taking to ensure that the Gang Suppression Force fits within the broader U.S. strategy toward Haiti, addressing not just security, but also governance, judicial responsibility, accountability, judicial impunity, humanitarian needs, and ultimately long-term stabilization for the people of Haiti?
Well, Representative, I think we've talked a little bit about some of the steps that need to be done in addition to securing the security situation. One of them is getting governance of Haiti by Haitians. Right now, you have no elected representatives in any branch of government in Haiti. All of the last elections were 10 years ago, and the people who were there were sort of put in by outside bureaucrats, and nobody had much respect for them. So one of the big parts of the strategy is for the Haitians to go ahead and, as rapidly as the security situation will allow, to have elections, get representatives in their legislature, get an elected president, start to appoint judges and so on, and have their own accountability mechanisms. We can't substitute all of those from the outside. The other is economic. This is why we were calling for a multi-year reauthorization of Hope Help. You can't go on forever with just outside injections of aid. I mean, much as important as the humanitarian aid is, that's not the optimum way to live. We want people to have jobs and for the Haitian economy to be functioning and so on. And the way to do that is to attract outside investment. So these are all pieces of the puzzle that have to work together. But they're, as the Colonel said before, they're all interdependent on each other. One of them by itself is not going to work. We have to make them all fire on all cylinders at the same time.
All right, I would just finally add, Mr. Chairman, that remittances from Haitian TPS owners in the United States would certainly help with stability in the country, and I feel it's not in the United States' interest to return Haitian TPS owners to a dangerous situation in Haiti. I yield back. Thank you.
Representative Baird.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member. Appreciate you having this hearing. And Ambassador Kozak and Colonel Gorkowski, we appreciate you being here and answering the questions from the committee. It really helps us understand where we're at. You know, after the fall of the Soviet Union, and I'm skipping some things that were happened back in 1915 regarding Haiti and our involvement there, but after the fall of the Soviet Union, our efforts did not cease. We continued our support for a democratic Haiti, and first in 1994 and then in 2004, the U.S. military stepped in to prevent military coup and the attempts against the democratically elected president, Bertrand Aristide. So yet after all of our intervention, Haiti continues to devolve, and in 2021, the country descended into gang violence, which you've talked a great deal about, following the assassination of the president, Mosey. And according to Secretary Marco Rubio, the only way to bring stability to Haiti is to first eliminate the 40,000 violent criminals. So we have our challenge, and you've expressed that already. But our goal and the goal that's in front of us, so I want to take a look at the UN and U.S. has a coordinated response. Haiti has hired a private contractor, Vectis Global, I think is the name, to help with revenue collections and border and customs enforcement. So, Colonel, how do you anticipate the information sharing and operations between the Vectis and other military forces and forces from Haiti? And how will these operations be deconflicted regarding the information that they receive?
So that's a great question, and I'd like to highlight that the Haitian Task Force, of which Vectis Global is a part, is a tremendous partner. And just in the next week, we will coordinate the placement of a Haitian Task Force member in our Joint Operations Center. So we will actually have an individual, he will be a Haitian National Police individual who is part of that task force of which Vectis Global supports, who will coordinate and deconflict both operational planning and operational execution.
And I can tell, or I think that I'm seeing that you think that coordination is working well and will continue to improve. And I think that's probably partially because the Haitians would like to have a democracy as well. And so,
Yes, sir. It is already working well. We have coordination informally at the command level, at all levels of command with Vectis Global and the Haitian Task Force, but this will formalize that agreement and partnership.
I really appreciate hearing that, because we're talking about American tax dollar and using them wisely. But Mr. Ambassador, part of the objectives with Haiti is to hold a viable democratic election and transition of power. The first round of the elections is scheduled for what? The 30th of August, the 30th of next month? And so my question is, how likely is this to actually happen? And so what's your opinion on what can be done to establish an effective election process? Just to give us your perspective.
Yes, thanks for the question, Representative. I think over the years, the U.S. has contributed a lot to the Haiti election machinery, and Haiti has it's still called a Provisional Electoral Council. They've never quite formalized it, but it's been provisional for 30 years. And I think you're right that is the preliminary date that they set for the first round of elections. Whether that will actually occur on that date or not, I don't know. The Prime Minister of Haiti has pointed out that he says they could have elections in 7 of their 10 departments, next week without any problem but the problem is the most populous part, Port-au-Prince, has this security situation that would make holding elections difficult there. So I think it's going to depend on how successful our colleagues in the Gang Suppression Force are. If they're able to retake, enough territory in the capital and create enough of a security situation that life is semi-normal there. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody's looking for. I think one of the problems Haiti had over the years was different international groups would come in and say, oh, you have to have this, and you'd end up with 187 different requirements for an election and never have an election as a result. So I think the Prime Minister's got it about right. He wants to have I said it won't be a Cadillac election, but if it's a good, F-150 election, that's going to be solid. They need an elected government. It doesn't need to be perfect. When it will happen, I mean, we hope it happens on schedule. Their goal is even though they've lost an entire presidential term, February 7, I think, is when the turnover should have occurred 5 years ago, and that's what they're shooting for. So we'll see, but that's definitely part of the goal. The U.S. isn't especially involved in that because they have a good, capable election commission of their own. They've been working this on their own. They've got a lot of help from the UN and the OAS and so on. So we don't have to do everything, but it's an important part.
Thank you for that answer. I appreciate that. And Colonel, I served in the Army, so I have every confidence you'll be able to take care of his concerns. And I thank you and yield back.
Representative Castro.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for your testimony today. I wanted to follow up on the questions about Vectis Global and their involvement in Haiti and also their relationship with the United States military and government. There's been a lack of transparency over the Vectis Global contract with the government of Haiti. Let me start with the basics. Can either of you describe what kind of unmanned systems Vectis Global is operating in Haiti? Ambassador Wooster referred to them at the February Senate Appropriations hearing as, quote, so-called kamikaze drones, unquote, armed, ordnance-equipped systems conducting strikes and not surveillance drones. So one of my questions, is that an accurate description of what's being used?
Congressman, I don't know all the specifics of Vectis Global's drones, but I do know that they operate reconnaissance drones in addition to one-way attack drones.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you so well because your microphone's so far down. Is it possible to move it?
Yeah, so I don't know all the specifics of Vectis Global's drone capabilities, but I do know they operate both reconnaissance and one-way attack drones.
So they activate, or they operate both surveillance drones and attack drones. And who authorizes each strike? Is that an internal Vectis Global decision, or does the Haitian government have an authorization role in the process?
I'm sorry, sir, I can't speak to that.
Is it classified information that you could offer in classified sitting?
No, I'm just frankly unaware. It's not part of our mission, and they report to the Haitian government, so it's not part of our purview.
You mentioned earlier that we would be coordinating here at some point with them. Is it something that you'll have more information on in 6 months or a year or shortly?
Likely, but our coordination is going to be focused on operations and deconfliction. Right now, the task force, the Haitian task force of which Vectis Global is a part, operates in a different part of the area of operations, so we don't have any overlap. But in the future, of course, as we shut down the gangs, that partnership will get closer, so we should have better insight.
And, well, I just want to know, I mean, for us as the Oversight Committee, and really for our government and for our nation, this is an American company using American technology that may be, or that is using attack drones in Haiti and may be killing people on the streets. And so I do think that it's something that you all should be apprised of, and that certainly as the oversight body that we should be apprised of. So I will revisit this issue with you in the future and hope that we can get more clarity on it. My next question for Mr. Kozak. Human Rights Watch published a report on March 10th documenting drone strikes by Vectis Global in Haiti between March 1st, 2025 and January 21st, 2026. Their researchers confirmed at least 43 adults killed who were not members of any criminal group and 17 children killed in that period. Has state reviewed these findings?
I'm generally aware of them, yes, but we don't have a capacity to cross-check them. I mean, I take them at their word.
And so I was going to follow up with a question, does the department maintain its own independent casualty count for a company it licensed to conduct these strikes, or is Human Rights Watch's the only accounting that exists right now?
Well, first on the question of licensing, this is something I checked with. We cannot confirm or deny whether any particular license has been issued to any company or not. Unfortunately, I actually wanted to be able to say more on that, but I'm told that by our lawyers that pursuant to law, it's considered proprietary information, and so that part I can't get into. On the ability, and throughout the world, we do rely heavily on human rights organizations for facts and figures of that kind.
Well, let me ask.
In Haiti, where our embassy is very, very constrained at this point because of the security situation.
Sure. Let me follow up with a question to Colonel. Do you believe, having said what I just said about a Human Rights Watch report, which Mr. Kozak essentially said was true or had no reason to doubt, do you believe Vectis Global's activities meet the standards that we expect of the U.S. military?
What I can tell you, Congressman, is that Vectis Global operations and the task force operations for Haiti have become more and more discriminate. They have gathered intelligence and had considerable success, especially over the past 6 months, putting the gangs on their back foot. So I think that they are performing a function that is essential to
But
future Haitian
you said that they become more discriminant, would suggest that they become better at what they're doing and more discerning, but it looks like they killed 17 children and 43 adults who were not associated with any criminal group. I mean, certainly we would expect more discrimination or discernment than that.
Yeah, so I don't know the specifics on civilian casualties, but this is a war situation, and unfortunately, that's a reality for the situation we find ourselves in. And we do everything we can to mitigate risk associated with that. The Haitian Task Force Invectus Global, I'm confident they're performing the same measures.
I'm out of time, so you'll back.
I'm going to recognize myself for questioning now. I want to begin by just saying this. I have found it amazing how much support I've seen by many of my colleagues saying 100% support for all of this work going on in Haiti when Haiti is not developing nuclear weapons. They weren't attacking the United States of America in ways with drugs and other things like Venezuela and Iran had been doing year after year, decade after decade, but 100% support there. That to me is just incredibly ironic. I want to start with questions about the MSS, and then we're going to go to the GSF. So just very plainly, U.S. put $1 billion, probably over $1 billion. Canada committed about $500 million to MSS. Where did the $1 to $1.5 billion go? Because Kenya did not give us what was promised.
I'd have to go back and get you exact figures on that, Mr. Chairman, but my understanding is a lot of it went to logistic support that we were providing to the operation, to the Department of War and their contractors.
How much do you think they paid each of the Kenyan service members?
I want to say it's the service members of something in the order of $32, $33 million.
In total of the $1 billion, the service members' stipend of that was about $33 million.
Yeah.
It was about $14.48 per individual, or just under that. The vast majority went to logistics, aerial movement of personnel and equipment, and then sustainment, the food, the health care, the hospital.
I'd like to see the ledger of what Kenya grifted off of the United States of America for this, off the American taxpayer. Can you provide us with the ledger of that?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. I want to move to the current situation of what's going on right now. We've talked a lot about the MSS already. So going to one of the questions that was asked already, is it the case that these gangs are creating child soldiers?
Yes, sir.
How big of a problem are child soldiers, under 18 soldiers?
Massive. Half of the gang composition is comprised of child soldiers.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that with us. Not good, but thank you for sharing the information with us. As you look at the TPS, which is a big part of the conversation, do you anticipate those that return to Haiti as a result of any ending of TPS being a part of the solution to make Haiti better?
Yes, I would say so, Chairman, that you know, you have people going back that have training or have matured in the United States and weren't part of the gang situation.
TPS decimated their police force. Will in ending of TPS bring people back?
Yeah, and hopefully there'll be employment opportunities for them in the security forces, both the police force, but also the military that the Haitians are going to be
As I made the point earlier, it was so much of a problem for Haiti that they had to go to making people come and receive their paychecks in person because so many of them were receiving their paychecks by direct deposit, and they were off in the United States of America, and they were not in Haiti doing their police work. I want to know a little bit about the strategy of what's going on here. Is this, as we look at the forests of Chad, Sri Lanka, Guatemala, Mongolia, El Salvador, Jamaica, I think that makes up about all of it, are these going block to block?
Yeah, that's a good question, sir. So the concept is clear, hold, build, right? So we are focusing on the highest density and concentration of gang elements in clearing those elements, and then very critically holding, which, as you know, previously the force was unable to do. So holding those, those areas with persistent presence, and then bringing in the build component, which is integration with Haitian security forces.
Chad is the largest group. Did you say build component? Was that the word?
Build, yes, sir.
Bill?
Partner with Haitian security forces and ensure that they can sustain themselves.
Chad, the largest group there. Who's the fighting force? Who's the hold force? Chad, Sri Lanka, Jamaica, El Salvador? Who's who?
So we've designed it, as you'll appreciate, very much like a military operation. It is a military operation, so we have areas of operation, 3 critical areas of operation with battalion-sized battle space owners. So Chad has the West Department, Port-au-Prince. Sri Lanka is responsible for the RT Bonit, where the gangs also are very entrenched. And then Cote d'Ivoire will come in and take the Center Department, which occupies, the town of Mirabelais is.
How many high-value targets have you identified for targeting? Not that you've hit yet, but necessarily targeted.
Yeah, I'd be happy to give you specifics in a classified session, but we're at the very front edge. So right now, for targeting purposes, it's 0. We will change that in the very near future, next 45 days.
I'll be curious to hear more about that one specifically. How much ground has been held so far?
So we've just built 2 critical forward operating bases. One of those is the Base Fertière, which is just across the street from the U.S. Embassy. We're thrilled to have you there in the next week or 2. That's a massive footprint that was previously a Haitian military base. We've now expanded into a critical stronghold that the gangs held previously in Lower Delmont. This is critical. It's between the seaport and the airport. And we expect to expand in the future, the very near future, on the north side of the airport, and then to the outlying provinces. Happy to give you those details in a classified setting.
Very good. Thank you for the information on that today. Thank you for your testimony, and we will go to Representative Jackson next.
Thank you, Chairman Mast. Thank you for panelists for being out today, and thank you, Ranking Member Meeks. The Trump administration's immigration policy has drawn some level of criticism for appearing to apply different humanitarian standards to different populations. While it moved quickly to admit white South Africaners as its stated policy from South Africa, where there has been no evidence of any brutality or repression, they've classified them as refugees based on claims of racial persecution. It simultaneously sought to terminate temporary protective status for hundreds of thousands of hardworking Haitians despite Haiti's ongoing political collapse. And I must say, we've had some participation in that by abducting one of its presidents recently. This reflects a selective approach to refugee and humanitarian protections that is difficult to reconcile with a consistent application of U.S. asylum and refugee principles. The question is, what objective criteria did the administration use to prioritize refugee emissions for white South Africans while seeking to end TPS protections for Haitians facing extraordinary violence and state collapse? Mr. Kozak.
Representative, I would say first, I think there's a big distinction between TPS and asylum or refugee status. A refugee or asylum, the individual needs to be able to show that they're being singled out for persecution based on race, religion, ethnicity, political opinion, something like that.
And can't many of the Haitians...
TPS is a temporary status saying that it's inconvenient to send somebody back because of an earthquake or a hurricane or something like that.
If you could answer the question, I understand the background, but if you could answer the administration.
I'm saying that in the case of you're positing a South Africa refugee question, the standard there would be the refugee standard. TPS does not use that standard, so it's not a distinction between South Africans and Haitians. It's a distinction between.
But the administration made it between white South Africans. Are there no other groups of people in South Africa that could also seek some sort of refugee status? The administration was very clear, only for white South Africans. But let's focus on Haiti, which is the real concern. Well, this is an arbitrary classification as well.
People anywhere that are out of their country can claim refugee status.
Is it dangerous for Americans to visit Haiti? Currently?
In terms of our travel advisory?
Yes.
It's dangerous for Americans
So
to visit Haiti, particularly the Port-au-Prince part of Haiti.
Why are we sending Haitians back to Haiti if we acknowledge it being dangerous?
The State Department travel advisories that are done for Americans, and they relate to dangers or risks that are particularly applicable to American visitors in another country. That doesn't necessarily apply to the population of that country. And so you can understand, for example, Americans can be at high risk of being kidnapped and extortion campaigns.
Can a
and it
Haitian
might
be at a high risk of being killed when they return to their home country?
It depends on the part of the country,
So the answer
Congressman.
is yes, correct?
It depends on the part of the country. If you are in Port-au-Prince and in an area controlled
Which is
by
the
the
largest
gangs,
city.
you're at risk of being harmed by the gangs.
So if we could say,
if you get crosswise with them, yeah.
so if the largest city is unsafe, we can also assume that many parts of the other country would be unsafe.
Where people are returning so far is in the north to Cap Haitian, which is relatively stable. People go to work there and so on.
Well, if you will, in closing, do you agree with the administration's policy of ending the temporary protective status for those Haitians that are in danger going back home?
I represent the administration that adopted that policy, yes.
You support it? Thank you. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. At this time, we'll recognize the representative from Michigan, Representative Huizinga, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good to see you all. Mr. Kozak, I also happen to chair the U.S.-Canada Interparliamentary Group, and we have been having some obviously robust conversations with the Canadians about forest fires and a number of other things, not to mention trade. So at some point, actually beyond this, I'd love to have a conversation with you about that relationship at a different time. So if we can make that arrangement, I would appreciate that.
Happy to do it.
Oh, great, thank you. Not long ago, in fact, 2021, 5 years ago, a family from my previous district in Oceana County in Michigan went to Haiti on with a humanitarian purpose, serving with Christian Aid Ministries. Following a visit to an orphanage in the eastern part of Port-au-Prince, a husband and wife working as Christian missionaries, and their children were abducted and held for over 5 months by 400 Mawazo and part of the Vive Ensemble gang coalition, which is designated as a foreign terrorist organization, the FTO, which is accounting for, I think, as you had said to the chairman, sorry, I think it may have been Colonel Gorkowski, that about half of those armed gangs are now minors, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, in total, 16 Americans and 1 Canadian, including women and children, were held for a $17 million ransom, and after months of negotiating by U.S. agencies, some of the hostages were eventually released. The others, while their captors were distracted, had quite a harrowing escape under the cover of darkness and were later recovered by our FBI in the Haitian bush. The DOJ finally served justice in December of 2025 when the ringleader of the 2021 abduction was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of release. This story is just one of many that speaks of the criminal enterprises and depravity that dominate a small country. And I have to tell you, in my area, within my own personal church and within our community, both in the faith-based and non-faith-based area, Haiti has been a huge part of both humanitarian and mission fields. And a number of adoptions that have come out of there and those kinds of things is impressive. We have people trying to help people, but we see this lawlessness that has hit Haiti just impact so many families, both obviously down there as well as here in the United States. Colonel, the Gang Suppression Force's mission is to have a Haiti that can secure itself. And we've heard today that's quite a lofty goal and far from certain or possible in the near term. I think before you were cut off, one of my colleagues was asking you about the contract that the Haitian government has. And you were starting to say that this contract is performing a necessary function because of this FTO and the situation down there. So I just wanted to give you a moment to let you sort of answer that question that had been cut off.
Yeah, thanks for that opportunity, sir. I will say, you know, there are certain things the Gang Suppression Force can do and things they cannot do based on the mandate. And one of those, under international human rights law, you know, the Gang Suppression Force is restricted on their ability to do kill-capture type operations of high-value targets, and frankly, we don't have the robust intelligence capabilities needed to do that effectively. So,
I find it interesting that the U.S. government, nor certainly the Haitian government, don't have the ability to get the intelligence, and they actually have to employ and use these contractors to go do that. Isn't that the case?
The Haitian National Police specifically are kind of leapfrogging, catapulting ahead in their ability to collect and process intelligence. So it's improving.
And there's only a few hundred of them.
That's accurate, sir. We're at about almost.
And really need thousands, plural, not singular. Okay, so we were down in, there was a group of us that were down in the Dominican Republic in December and had the opportunity to speak to the charge, Mr. Wooster, via telecom. And I'm curious, at that time, it was pretty dire. Is Haiti in a better situation than it was 6-8 months ago, or are we in a worse situation?
We are most certainly in a better situation now, but any additional assistance will, again, kind of catapult progress.
And do you have an estimate, and my time is running up here, but Colonel, do you have an estimate of what a realistic timeline for Haitian forces to take the lead in securing their own sovereignty might be?
I would estimate it to be at 2 to 3 years in order for them to grow the necessary personnel, but also train them effectively to take this over. I mentioned at the top that Haiti, based on its population size, needs about 30,000 security force personnel to effectively secure, according to international standards.
Okay, and my time is up, but I would want to lend my voice as well to the chairmans about having a better understanding of what happened with those monies that were going into what was supposed to be a security force coming in. So with that, I yield back.
The gentleman yields. At this time, we'll recognize the Representative Kamlager-Dove for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Meeks, for this hearing today. So, Ambassador Kozak, the theme of your government service has been the advancement of democracy and human rights. And from your CV, you have gone to some complicated countries like Haiti. And the fact that you are an experienced Haitian policy veteran dating back to the 90s means that you understand its significance and challenges. It is part of the Western Hemisphere, part of the Caribbean, close to us. The TPS program has been an economic lifeline to Haiti. The professionalization of the diaspora has made Haiti an essential contributor to our economy and healthcare workforce. More than 100,000 Haitian immigrants work in the U.S. healthcare, helping fill critical workforce shortages and generating millions of dollars in economic activity through their labor, taxes, and spending. I see that as diplomacy at work, and yet historically we have treated Haiti very gingerly. I think that's short-sighted given its proximity to us, and wonder if it is that we don't care about Haiti because we haven't figured out to control it. Newsflash, ask France, they don't want to be controlled. Or is it because this is a country of African people? Don't know the answers to that, but what I do know is that we have benefited economically from Haiti and its people for decades while failing to make a comparable investment in its long-term stability. And it is rudderless right now. It has descended into an unprecedented security and humanitarian crisis, and this administration is making it worse by pulling back, leaving a vacuum at precisely the moment when sustained engagement is needed. In 2025, President Trump withdrew a $13 million U.S. commitment to the United Nations, intended to help combat the very gangs we are discussing today. So Ambassador Kozak, public reporting indicates that the department approved a license allowing Vectis Global to provide defense services to the Haitian government in connection with the reported $52 million security agreement. So can you at least confirm that the department issued that authorization?
Regrettably, Representative, I cannot. I'm told by our lawyers that I cannot confirm or deny whether anybody has applied for a license or whether we've granted or not granted a license to a particular company.
So is it that you don't have the information or you're not allowed to share the information?
I'm not allowed to share information.
Okay. So do you know?
I'm told by law that we're required to keep it
Well,
confidential.
somebody knows. So could you share it in a classified setting?
I think the question would be for our Bureau of Political Military Affairs that runs the licensing, but my understanding is that they're not able, there are reporting requirements they have with Congress.
I get it. Nobody wants to tell us anything. So do you know if the license authorization is for 1 year or 10 years?
I can't
say
comment on a
You know, so I'm only asking
hypothetical
because
license.
we are, you know, some of this has been reported in the news. So I want to know then, if you even know what's in the security agreement. Does it include things like a performance-based commission for Vectis Global? I'm assuming you probably can't share that either. I'm also wondering how they would collect taxes, because part of the agreement, and we've heard about it, includes revenue collection. So wondering what that looks like, and do they get a commission based on how much taxes they collect? But I'm assuming, I mean, I'm also curious as to who they report to. And the reason why I ask is because, I mean, these are like due diligence questions. So at the very least, can you share what due diligence the department conducted on Vectis Global and its ownership and leadership?
I don't know the answers to most of those questions. I would say what I do know is what the Colonel mentioned earlier.
Yes, and
is that this private military contractor does report to a task force that's headed by the Haitian Prime Minister.
Right.
That we know from the Haitians telling us.
The reason why
But I'm not aware
is because Eric, and I don't want to have to ask you any more questions that you can't answer or are told not to answer. But it's interesting because Eric Prince is the head of Vectis Global. He's also a longtime ally and donor of the president, and it seems like once again we are approving licenses to go to friends and family members of Donald Trump when we really should be focusing on how we can have diplomatic engagement to create lasting peace in countries that are important to us, that are of close proximity to us. And with that, I will yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. I will just add that under the DDTC's Director of Defense Trade Controls, they are having requirements that are things such as DSP-5, DSP-83s that are requirements not only for brokerage licensing and vetting, but also for exportation and approvals in line with ITAR. I'd also note that while Prince is sometimes a controversial issue for many of my colleagues, we will add that we wouldn't have had Shkin Afghanistan had it not been for them or other areas of security cooperations that we had utilized through the State Department, the agencies, and various others that successfully carried out not hundreds, not tens, but thousands of successful missions that allowed us to protect our diplomats, protect our dignitaries, and also advance security cooperations. With that, I will recognize the gentlelady from Florida, Representative Salazar, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wonderful to see you again, Mr. Kozak, and thank you for your service, Colonel Gorkowski. And you know, I represent the city of Miami, hundreds of thousands of Haitians. We know them very well. We know they're good people. It's been miserable, the political elite that they have had or inherited for the last 100 years. They deserve better, and they also deserve better in 2010 when the Clinton administration formed something called the Clinton Foundation and received so many funds in order to reconstruct that country, and those funds were compromised. So we know that the Haitians do not deserve many of the political situations they have had to face. For that reason, I am bringing up the Hope Help Act, which is the #1 source of formal employment in the country. They're employing more than 100,000 people. So I would like for you to send the message to this body, to the United States Congress, Republicans and Democrats, in saying that Secretary of State supports the renewing of this program for 5 years, brings stability, it keeps Haitians at home, and we need the signal from state. Can you send that through this committee right now?
Yes, Representative Salazar. The Secretary and the administration support a multi-year reauthorization of Hope Help. We're quite in favor of it. And
What else do you think state could do in order to push this body to take this up and give the Haitians 5 more years of stability?
I think we've been trying to signal that every way we can, including in my testimony here today.
Beautiful, beautiful. So State Department and the Trump administration is in support of extending for 5 years the Hope Help Act. Beautiful. The Gang Suppression Force, we're talking about 5,000 effective or men in uniform, not all of them Americans. We are going to be providing some type of leadership. It's a full force. Are we going to be able to arrest barbecue? What are we planning to do with barbecue? And for those that do not know, barbecue is the leader of one of the many gangs, but apparently he's more intelligent and he's been able to sort of have a grasp of the country.
You know, that's a great question. And of course, barbecue has been on the minds of anybody who looks at Haiti. You know, the great strength that barbecue has developed in recent years, in the last 3 or so years, is the development of alliances. And one of our
alliances. So he has aligned himself with whom? Other gangs?
Yeah, so 2 large gang coalitions, G9 and GPEP, allied over the past few years, and now you have 20-some separate gangs who are allied under this Viva Ensemble.
And why? What has he done? What does he have? Why is he so capable of uniting all these criminals behind him?
Yeah, so it's predominantly influence, largely through social media, but also influence through resources, so money, weapons, etc.
Who gives them those resources?
Yeah, it comes from many different angles. Weapons and ammunition that come, in some cases, direct from Florida and New York through the Dominican Republic. They have porous borders.
Who pays for that?
They generate the revenue largely through illegal tolls, taxation. The areas they control, they are the de facto sovereign. So they collect taxes, they excise tolls, they control shipments, from the seaport. From the official border crossing points. So they have massive revenue generation, thousands of dollars for individual vehicles.
And do you think that this Gang Suppression Force, 5,000, will be able to, is there any way that we can barbecue? Can we roast him?
I hope so.
Slowly.
Yeah.
Those pigs that they get roasted little by little, that's exactly what he deserves. And I'm sure that this is going to go viral on social media. That's exactly what the United States Force should do to barbecue. Barbecue him. Is there any way that we can do something similar?
Yeah, we are focused on retaking the territory controlled by the gangs, and through that, we will suffocate him and his lifeblood.
Are we going to be able to arrest him? Do you think, is there any possibility that we're going to be able to arrest this man and bring him to justice?
It is absolutely a possibility. It's a top objective.
And by when do you think that could happen?
It's hard to put a timeline on these things, but I will tell you, we will have full operational capability this fall, and that's the point at which we will start constricting his maneuver space.
And then decapitate him, since you told me that he is the barbecuing him, meaning decapitating the head, meaning him, and then the rest of the gang organizations may crumble. Okay, my time is, I just have one more question for you, Mr. Kozak. You know that I sent a letter to you and to Secretary Rubio basically asking for this shell company called Comercio Dola, whatever, in Cuba. And what they do is that they're the shell company for the Cuban military in charge of human trafficking. So this is the organization that does business with other countries, and those other countries send money to this shell company. And basically what they're doing is that they are in the business of human trafficking, Cuban doctors, trafficking Cuban doctors. And why do I say that? Because these doctors are modern-day slaves. They get paid 5% of their salary. They cannot bring to the country where they're going to be serving wife, kids, families. They are just slaves. They cannot receive the money. That money that they are earning is deposited in a Cuban bank. Bottom line, modern day human trafficking? Is there any way that you can put this shell company on the blacklist? And when I say that, why does that happen? Because when that happens, then you will be saying to those countries that legally they cannot send money to this organization. You have the golden touch to stop this. When could you do this, sir?
Thanks for the question, Representative Salazar. I think you've seen that we have been progressively hitting the GAESA entities, and certainly the
Bravo.
Yeah, and
Share it.
what I'll have to
LEA.
check is that there are when we hit one of the parent entities, automatically the subordinate ones become subject to sanction as well. But this is one of our high priorities, is stopping that program of making, basically where others are renting or slave labor from the Cuban security services.
That's correct.
So we absolutely share your desire on this, and we've gone after the parent company. So I'll
Is this
get back to you as to
comerciadora?
whether that individual shell company is.
So you're sending the message that those countries
from
cannot be
Florida?
sending any more money?
Yeah, it's no more.
Thank you so much.
You
Chairman,
were
can I
late.
take a quick
yield
break?
back. Thank you.
And I would just add also, when we talk about the influence of barbecue, please note that he was very close to the previous president, which gave him a lot of influence, and he pushed it in a way where he would actually say that I'm here to stop what's going on in Haiti. He was also a national police officer for a while, so he did have influence, he did have leadership, he did have a mentorship, and I think that they trusted in it, but it needs to come to an end. At this time, I'd like to recognize the gentle lady from Pennsylvania, Ms. Dean, for 5 minutes.
I thank you, Chairman, and I thank the Chairman Mast and Ranking Member Meeks for holding this hearing. I thank our witnesses for being here today. As has been described, Haiti is in the middle of one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world. Nearly 1.5 million Haitians are currently displaced, according to IOM. 5.8 million Haitians, half the population, are food insecure, hungry, according to World Food Program. Vital health and social services collapsing, access to health care inconsistent, schools frequently closed. Ambassador Kozak, you testified that the United States' overarching objective in Haiti is baseline stability. And it seems that while gang violence has exacerbated Haiti's humanitarian crisis, Haiti's underlying humanitarian crisis is also a continuation or a cause of the continued violence and instability, an ongoing cycle of instability that I know you both are interested in breaking. But let's take a look at what has happened. And this started on January 20th of this administration. Due to the dismantling of USAID and other cuts at state, there have been significant cuts to U.S. humanitarian assistance to Haiti. Specifically, January 20th, when the president was sworn in, he ordered a review of foreign aid, which began an immediate 90-day pause. March 10th, 83% of U.S. aid programs cut. March 28th, the reduction in force notices went out. Ambassador Kozak, under this administration's watch, life-saving programs for healthcare, HIV treatment, food security, and clean water canceled outright. Some estimates put the cuts at up to 50% of all assistance programs that were in place for Haiti. Yet, the department continues to refuse to provide this committee with a full list of what was terminated, despite previous assurances that you would. Why is that, and when will we get a full accounting of that which has been cut?
Okay, thank you, Representative Dean. Let me be clear that I think the administration's policy was to continue life-saving programs that provide water and food and so on. One thing we have done, though.
No, but I'm asking you specifically, programs that were cut. That's the reporting that we want. I understand what you said.
And this is where we need to go back to the what's left of USAID that has those figures. But what I want to do is put this in the right context. What the effort was.
I have heard the context before. Mr. Ambassador, please.
All right.
We're asking for specific reporting. When will we get specific reporting on the programs cut? You can tell us later, or in addition, that which you replenished or shifted, what was cut. For example, it is estimated that $784,000 worth of health commodities were let to partially expire. What happened to those things on the shelves? Did the Haitian people ever get those life-saving things, or did we just wind up trashing them? Do we have reports?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question.
Will you
I would
promise to
refer
get
it to the USAID people. But I do want
USAID's
to get
gone.
on the record, Congresswoman, that
No,
we...
no.
Yeah, well,
Sir,
you asked me a question and
as a
won't let me answer.
representative of this administration, you owe us that reporting. Don't ask us to go to USAID. Most of those folks are gone. The administration owes the answer. I'll leave it at that. Let me go on to the boat strikes. It's an issue I care deeply about, and the related issues to it. I know that the administration cares about stopping the flow of illicit drugs into the country. And the administration's boat strike campaign has the stated purpose of stopping the flow of illicit drugs to the U.S. There's a problem with that premise. The president keeps talking about fentanyl on these boats. Actually, there are two problems with it. In the boat strikes, what evidence have you produced that these were boats carrying illicit drugs to the United States? Where's the evidence?
I think you would put that question to our colleagues from the Department of War who've been carrying out that policy.
But this is
I do know that they feel confident that they are targeting the correct
here's the deal.
targets.
We have had so far 221 dead, 66 strikes. That's only as of July the 1st. There were 4 strikes in June alone that killed 16 people. Congress has received no evidence of these extrajudicial killings, of the evidence of the drug trafficking. When will you, in your capacity, provide us that evidence? Department of Defense, as it is named currently, hasn't given us any briefings either, but you owe us briefings.
I can't brief you on something I don't know.
Do you have any evidence of drugs on these boats?
I think that has not been the issue. The issue is whether the people on the boats and the boats are part of the organizations that are doing that.
What do you have evidence of that, of their organizational ties?
These are intel driven.
Mr. Chairman, the last member went over 2 minutes.
Yes,
Would you answer the question?
I understand that, Ms. Dean, but at the end of the day, I do sit with the chair and have the gavel. And I am being polite and asking for you to just go ahead and ask whatever questions you would like.
Reports. Thank you.
Ms. Dean is very passionate, as we all are, about how drugs have impacted our families. And I understand that while she supports this heavily, she also wants to make sure that the intel is correct, as we all do in Congress. I understand your point, which is the Department of War resides with the majority of this. I'm blessed enough to sit on the Armed Services Committee and the Foreign Affairs Committee, so I have actually received briefings that talks about where the drug boats had actually left from, which were known areas of collection points, who was seen there as a target identification, doing PIDs, and then also what the route was that was distinguished by their actual vectors on the ocean itself. Is that enough? For some, yes. For some, no. But I know that Ms. Dean and I have a very shared concern here, which is stop drugs from poisoning our families, from ruining lives, and making sure that our streets are safe. And I know we have that shared concern.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe you could get that briefing shared with the larger Congress. And of course, the false premise that these are fentanyl boats makes no sense whatsoever. Thank
And
you.
the majority of them are not just fentanyl, they are cocaine and others. So I agree that we need a full brief. But you know as well as I do, Ms. Dean, that unfortunately, if we don't sit on certain committees, we don't always get the information. I don't get it from financial services. I don't get it from others. It'd be nice if that was the case, but it's not always, which is why we have our areas of jurisdiction. With that, I will now recognize the representative from New York, Mr. Lawler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The State Department currently lists Haiti as a level 4 travel advisory and tells Americans not to travel to Haiti for any reason whatsoever, and even encourages them to leave DNA behind in the event they do go to Haiti. Mr. Kozak, can you please share why Haiti is at level 4 And why is it unsafe for Americans to travel there?
Well, these are determinations made by our Consular Affairs Bureau for countries all around the world. I would say in the case of Haiti, the factors that have gone into it. One, we've had, as Representative mentioned earlier, we've had a number of kidnappings of Americans and being held for ransom and so on. We have extremely limited consular services there because our embassy is so small. And the generalized crime in parts of Haiti. So there are all those different factors that are spelled out in the travel advisory. But these are...
Inclusive of that, the lack of a stable government, the gangs running large portions of Haiti, correct? These are all part of the determinations?
I have to go back and look at what the Consular Affairs cites there, but certainly that contributes to the risk of being kidnapped and so on, not having a stable government and having gangs in charge of areas of the country.
Right. It's okay to acknowledge the situation on the ground there. Now, when DHS made the determination to terminate TPS for Haiti, did they consult with the State Department at all about the situation on the ground?
DHS does consult with us about country conditions, both with respect to TPS determinations and with respect to...
Okay, so in that consultation...
But the decision is their decision.
I understand. In that consultation, what did State say to the Department of Homeland Security?
I don't recall, but I think you can say that... Well, it's not that we say, here is what we think about TPS. We say, here is the situation on the ground in Haiti.
I would imagine you conveyed to the Department of Homeland Security that it is unsafe on the ground in Haiti, correct? I can't imagine that State said it's a safe...
Take a look at the Human Rights Report and other reports that we've done over time. They're consistent on that there's a really big security problem in Haiti. That's why we are standing up the Gang Suppression Force, no doubt about it.
Right. So wouldn't it stand to reason that before terminating TPS, we would want the Gang Suppression Unit to do its work and ensure the safety and well-being on the ground?
I think you go back to the beginning of this. So the temporary protected
Listen, sir, I know what temporary protected status means.
Yeah, and it was protecting from an earthquake that happened 16 years ago.
Right, multiple natural disasters, and then, of course, the assassination of the president of the country was inclusive of these determinations as to why TPS was extended. But State has a very specific role, which is to advise the Department of Homeland Security about the situation on the ground, and I can't imagine, given that we are setting up a gang suppression unit, that anybody at State would have said everything is honky-dory on the ground in Haiti and let's end TPS. I mean, is that the position of the State Department?
No, it's certainly not anybody saying that it was honky-dory.
All right, good. So over the last few years, the security situation has clearly deteriorated in Haiti, and what started as a downward spiral has ended up in a free fall. There's no legitimate government. The gangs are exercising authority over citizens, roads, ports, and much of Port-au-Prince itself. And the dire situation has resulted in a humanitarian crisis and extreme poverty. And since I joined Congress, I've been urging my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, as well as the Biden and Trump administrations, to prioritize the problems in Haiti. President Biden oversaw the UN's Kenyan-led multinational security support mission, which was an absolute disaster and a failure, okay? The Gang Suppression Force has the potential to work because the whole objective is to eliminate the gangs and allow for a stable government to take form and allow for a free and fair election. So, Colonel, can you share how the Gang Suppression Force differs from this Kenyan-led mission, and why is this the better route?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Congressman. Very important to distinguish the two because they really are two separate entities. The biggest challenge that we began with was clearly identifying the problem, and the problem had been mischaracterized in previous intervention as a criminal problem. It is fundamentally not. It is a proto-insurgency, and we seek the Gang Suppression Force to attack those proto-insurgent issues. So the gangs are comprised, their operations are comprised of 4 critical elements. One's arms and ammunition. 2 is resource flows, illicit resource flows, narcotics, et cetera. 3 is safe haven, and 4 is alliances. Our objectives are to eliminate that lifeblood from the gangs, and we've designed the force to do just that. We have an updated mission. We have very clear and distinct leadership from the last mission. The size, we're 5 times larger. The structure, it's a military-heavy structure, 4/5 military, 1/5 police. Yeah. And then finally, sustainment. The greatest burden to the U.S. taxpayer was through sustainment of the previous mission. The UN is supporting sustainment of this mission through assessed contributions.
I appreciate that. And look, we want this to succeed. We want Haiti to be safe for Haitians to return to and have a more stable government and elect a government of their own choosing and have a democracy on the ground free of gang activity. Lastly, I would just say in the NDAA last year, we created the Office of Haitian Affairs. I see your colleague stepped away, but this needs to be set up within the State Department immediately and start focusing on what needs to be done, working with state and our staff on the ground there and the government of Haiti ultimately to have a more stable situation on the ground. So I would encourage the administration to get the Office of Haitian Affairs set up as Congress passed in the NDAA. I yield back.
Thank you so much. I know that many of the members want to wait until the ambassador comes back so you can ask questions. In the sake of saving time, and again, I'm giving people extra time because I do think this is a very important issue. I know that Debbie knows how, Ms. Wasserman Schultz knows how important this is, being in the state of Florida and knowing how close to our own shorelines it is. And so I definitely want to give her the opportunity to ask the questions as well as for Representative Mfume. But I'll go ahead and recognize myself for 5 minutes and address with the Colonel, and that way it gives you guys time if you'll agree. Thank you. Colonel, looking at GS9, looking at barbecue, and looking at the gang activity, what could you utilize as a comparison to things that we have encountered like this in the past and what strategies were successful?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and we've done a fair amount of comparative analysis trying to identify an appropriate solution. Probably Somalia comes closest in this regard. We built our solution not only through that comparative analysis, but also through detailed analysis of previous multinational force failures. The same themes are reiterated throughout history, and our distinct goal from the onset was to ensure we don't, complete the same mistakes of the previous missions.
And if I may, we've seen where, and I'll bore people with the history, we always want to hit the contractor, right? I would argue that Lewis and Clark actually was a contractor as well who mapped out America, and we didn't have issues whenever it was to our benefits, and we've certainly seen where there are benefits, especially being a U.S. Army combat veteran myself, having been a contractor myself in various factions, whether it be with the agency or whether it be with the State Department, there are certain permissible capabilities that we have under letters of authorization, or in Iraq, for example, when you had the CPA, Coalition Provincial Authorities, that enable us to do things that is not governed by the Uniform Code of Military Justice and enables things to be able to come to fruition. We have to recognize that sometimes in warfare, sometimes in gang terrorist activity strategies or anti-gang strategies like this, there are certain restrictions and handcuffs on us that without that we could resolve very quickly. I lead that question into asking, what is the current oversight? Do you feel it's adequate for what we have regarding contractors in Haiti? Because here's what I always am concerned with. I don't want another Nisour Square incident. I don't want another outrage in a country where we actually cause more diplomatic damage and more destabilization. And America's been great at destabilizing nations like Afghanistan and Iraq for 20 plus years, and I certainly don't want us to see a prolonged war again. But I also want to see stability and improvement for the Haitian people. Do you feel there's adequate oversight and cooperation between the government and these contractors to see this to success?
Congressman, I do. Contractors are a part of conflict. Christopher Columbus was a military contractor. So it goes back through the duration of history. There are certainly elements of this conflict that the contractors and as a part of the Haitian task force, things that they can do and execute that are essential, and there are elements that have to be done by the Gang Suppression Force. There's justification for each of those parallel efforts, but they must be parallel, and I do think they have the necessary oversight structures in place.
I would caution using Christopher Columbus, given his treatment of the people of Hispaniola, and noting that it was under the doctrine of discovery under the Vatican that was actually approved by the Queen Catherine of Spain at the time, and the idea of expansionism and his own doctrine. He came back and wrote in his diary that the people of this nation do not know the wealth they have and will make great slaves for us. Yeah, I'm not exactly a massive Christopher Columbus fan in history, just to be clear. Mr. Ambassador, I want to ask, have you seen, with the current status of the Haitian government or its transitional piece, cooperation that would give you any type of confidence that we're working towards stability and not just replicating what we've done for a decade now?
Yes, I think with a couple of specifics. We had this transitional presidential council that was set up that was sort of a rotating presidency. Some of the people on it were tied up with gangs. Some of them were very corrupt. They were keeping their position simply so they would have immunity from prosecution. That is not the kind of government that gives anybody any kind of confidence of stabilization or anything else.
Thank you.
Happily, that despite an effort that they made to displace the prime minister and prolong their tenure, that didn't happen. They're gone. The prime minister, is certainly not an elected individual, but he seems to be very dedicated in his mission, which is to have an election and get somebody else elected. He's not purporting to run for office himself.
But not a
so I think we've got
not a dictatorship style, and someone who wants to see the success of his nation, which is what we all want.
Exactly.
With running over just a few seconds, if I may, Haiti's very important, especially to us in the great state of Florida, but it's significantly important to me as the only member of Congress who went and traveled over to Haiti in April of 2024 and conducted rescues. One of those rescues, which was 10 individuals out of an orphanage, the second rescue, which was 13 people out of a missionary. We wish that we could have gotten more, but also I was blessed to be able to work with the Tim Tebow Foundation, another great Floridian, to get out 59 mentally and physically disabled children that Barbecue and his gangs wouldn't murder, but would take their food and their medicine to watch them slowly die. This is the type of barbarism that we can't accept, especially this close to our own shorelines. And while this is one of multiple rescues that we've been a part of, and I was very thankful to the Dominican Republic and their government for their support running out of Puerto Plata, Santo Domingo, and other areas, we need more cooperations. We need Congress to have better reporting and briefings, and we need to have the information so that we can use the tools that we have here, which I know is near and dear to all of my Florida colleagues, to try and make sure that we can support the efforts. With that, I will now recognize the gentleman from Maryland, and I apologize for the additional time, but you will get as well. Representative Mfume.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My thanks to you and to, obviously, our two witnesses. This is a tough matter. I spent 3 hours at the Pentagon yesterday trying to better understand a number of things that we are and are not doing, and had briefings, I'm sure, Colonel, with some of your colleagues there. Let me just say this about Haiti. I have a deep affection and affinity for the country of Haiti. Their 235-year history is replete with instances where they continue to overcome great odds. And our history with respect to them has been hands-on, hands-off, we didn't see it, let's not do it, or let's put it off. And so our treatment of Haiti as a government has been temperamental, it's been periodic, but it's never been sustained to the extent that we, in fact, are trying to find a way to make sure that the foundations that need to be there are there. They've got a rich history. I mean, it was 1791 that slaves who did not get to America were dropped off there and put together their own revolution against those who were enslaving them. It took them 3 or 4 years, but they won. They pushed back the troops that were coming in from France. Napoleon, the, quote, great Napoleon, sent his troops there with an armada across the, right off the shore of the capital, threatening to invade. And Toussaint Louverture, who was the leader of the resistance, beat Napoleon. You know, they don't talk about that enough with Napoleon's history, but he was defeated there, turned around and went back to France, and then France, in turn, sends another big group of ships to come in and blockade Haitian ports for the next 10 years, and then impose something on them called financial indemnity, which means you've got to pay us in order for you to do business off your shores. It's all those kind of crazy things. In 1915, President Wilson had to send troops there because of the barbaric nature of those persons who had overthrown the government. And I think most of you know that from that point on, Claude Doc, Papa Doc Duvalier, ruled with an iron hand. He killed, murdered, tortured people. When he left, his son, Baby Doc, came in and did the same thing. It was so bad that by 1988, people were being hacked to death going to vote. Pregnant women being hacked to death with machetes. So this captured the world's attention, but it still took us several more years later to get involved. In fact, many of us argued with President Clinton at the time, you've got to send in Marines to stabilize what was really a torture and a massacre. So our Marines went there, they restored the government, and then there were attacks on the government because we couldn't stay there. So my point here is that this sort of violence that we've seen in Haiti did not start with barbecue, but he has found a way to make it his sort of torture and his sort of intimidation. We know after that, the earthquake came, we realized that the former president in 2021 was assassinated. We've seen all sorts of crazy things take place since then. I don't know to what extent the CIA is providing Colonel Yu or others with intel with respect to what's happening at that border in Hispaniola, where the Dominicans are on one side and where there's a lot of back and forth trafficking, or whether or not we're even monitoring it. But my sense is that this guy, Barbecue, has found a way to impose tariffs, if I can use that term, and just outright fear in the minds of people so that they're paying him. So 2 quick things, and I'm going to shut up. Temporary protective status is ended. I was here when it began. It began because of some of the things that I talked about earlier, that people there were being killed left and right, and nobody really wanted to pay any attention to it. We've got to find a way to extend that. I've written to the White House. We're going to continue to push back and push back. Unfortunately, the courts did not side with those people who were trying to extend it. But there are 300,000 Haitians here. If we sent them all back tomorrow, you can bet a good number of them will be killed and tortured because they will be seen as Americans coming back or forced to come back to that country. So I don't know to what extent, Mr. Ambassador, you're prepared to talk about your position on temporary protective status and the extension of it, but I'd be welcome to hear it.
Well, I think as we mentioned earlier, Representative, TPS, of course, is a determination made by the Department of Homeland Security.
Well, yeah, but they're not here. This is not past the hot potato today. I'm just trying to get your sense as an individual about whether or not we should be finding a way to extend it temporarily.
Yeah. Look, what I have seen with other countries in the region where we've had TPS and so on is that it's not the 300,000 all go back at once. It's quite a number of the TPS beneficiaries have gained
Homeland
status
Security
there.
said they're going to move the great dispatch to get as many out of this country as possible. So that's the reality, what they've said. And when you say that, you have to say to every person who's here, some of whom have families, and most of whom have families and raise their children. Now we're going to take you out of your neighborhood, send you back to Haiti so you and barbecue can figure out what happens when you get off the plane. That is not the way the United States of America should be proceeding on this. So when I asked, I'm assuming that you don't want to go beyond your orders here and give me your opinion, but you have to have some opinion. And I would hope that people outside of the White House have opinions also. We can't be complicit in murders that are going to take place as a result of trying to throw 300,000 people out of communities here in the United States and assume they're going to be okay when they get off the plane. I yield back. Thank you for the extra time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate reiterating the history of violence that Haiti has faced and how this isn't a new issue and has plagued that nation for quite some time. I will just also, for the sake of stating it, the same way that I would never speak on behalf of the people of Maryland, as you wouldn't speak on behalf of the people of Florida, it's difficult when the State Department isn't able to respond to things because these are decisions made by other departments like Homeland Security and like the Department of War. Yes, we have personal opinions, but you know as well as I do as an elected official, sometimes our personal opinion of things comes secondary to our constituency. And so I know it's a very difficult position to be put in. And so I do appreciate that, Mr. Ambassador. At this time, I'd like to recognize an excellent member, the gentle lady from Florida, Ms. Wasserman Schultz, who I know will have a series of great questions regarding the people of Haiti and her constituency, which I believe makes up quite a significant amount of those. And so I recognize you for 5 minutes, but please feel free to go over as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see you up there, a fellow Floridian, and appreciate your kind words. I do want to, yes, acknowledge, highlight that I represent one of the largest Haitian communities in the United States of America. And I do, Mr. Chairman, want to just make a correction to an erroneous statement that Chairman Mast made before I arrived at this hearing, when he said that the terminated TPS for Haiti was only designated because of the 2010 earthquake. The most recent redesignation, and Mr. Chairman, if I can ask unanimous consent to submit for the record the 2021 designation of Haiti for temporary protected status into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. That most recent designation from the Biden administration cites, quote, serious security concerns, social unrest, human rights abuses, crippling poverty, and lack of basic resources, to say nothing of the fact that the humanitarian situation now is just as bad or worse as after the earthquake. I mean, if an earthquake is the only valid reason for TPS to be extended, why hasn't Venezuela been redesignated? For example, they just got hit by 2 7+ earthquakes. That having been said, Mr. Kozak, you've indicated here that, and acknowledged, Haiti is not safe. It's dangerous, particularly the capital. You vaguely referenced Cap-cation as being potentially safe, where people are going back to. I would no sooner want to be deported to Indiana than a Haitian with TPS here would want to be deported back to their country and not be able to return to the place that they were from. And particularly given that the country is absolutely dangerous, as you've acknowledged. The only explanation for sending people back to Haiti, knowing it is dangerous, knowing it will undermine the mission and lead to more death, is evidenced by the personal animus that the president seems to have for the Haitian people. I think the president has shown a whole lot of that, despite all the testimony about countering gangs. The Secretary of State and other members of the president's cabinet have made clear that mass deportations are their #1 priority. And I mean, unless you're talking about self-enrichment, which is also ranks right up there with the president's priorities. Your job is to stabilize Haiti. Are those missions in conflict? Is it possible to stabilize Haiti while sending 350,000 people back there? Mr. Mfume just indicated correctly, the president has said, and Department of Homeland Security has said, they are planning on rounding up 2,000 Haitians who have no longer have TPS a day and sending them back to Haiti. So it is going to be a massive effort to deport all 350,000. And I know that ripping Haitians from their jobs and citizens' kids That'll be the administration's priority. That's an unacceptable situation, and it's one that we should not accept. Chairman Mills, I would commend to you legislation that I am working on and about to introduce that would require that there be consultation with the Department of State and consider states' recommendations about the conditions on the ground in a country to factor into whether it's appropriate to revoke TPS for a particular nationality. So we'll send that over to you. I'd love to ask you to consider
Thank you so much. And obviously, it's very important to get whole of government input.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kozak, I have strong disagreements, shifting gears here with this administration, but I want to highlight something important that the State Department did do last week. For the past 3 years, I've advocated for the release of Cuban artist and political prisoner Luis Manuel Otero Alcantara, and I'm grateful that he's been freed and brought here to the United States. There are still hundreds of political prisoners in Cuba, including Michael Castillo Perez, and I'll work with anyone to help set them free. So I want to share some quotes from Cubans. Quote, "We are locked in cages. Constant loud noises, crying, screaming all around. I hear the sounds of guards punching, the clanking of handcuffs, screaming horribly as they hit him. I have asthma. I can't breathe. Small meals that arrive cold and water I would not give a dog. I've not seen the sun for approximately 1 month. A trauma that will take a long time to erase, if it's even possible." Mr. Kozak, what kind of government would treat prisoners this way? Inhumane conditions, no due process, limited contact with the outside world?
The Cuban Communist government.
Right. Also our government, because I think you should know that those comments are from Cubans here detained by ICE. And the reason that Cubans are being held by ICE for months on end, sent to random countries in Africa where they're tortured, or left for dead across the border in Mexico is that the Cuban regime refuses to accept deportation flights, correct?
They accept some.
Very few, very few. That's why we passed the Cuban Adjustment Act and why President Biden offered humanitarian parole to Cubans and Haitians, the same benefits that allow Luis Manuel to walk free today. Unfortunately, this president, our current president, simply believes that all Cuban, Haitian, and Venezuelan immigrants, even those who pass background checks, earn work permits, and secure legal status, are nothing but criminals. That's outrageous, just as outrageous as you seem to indicate that the Cuban regime, which does treat their people just like I described, but unfortunately, this current administration does too. Thank you. I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you so much. Ambassador Kozak, I know you have a plane to catch. We do have a member who just came in from Ohio, Representative Miller. If you have the time for 5 minutes, I will keep it to the 5 minutes. At this time, I'd like to recognize the gentleman from Ohio, former military Marine veteran, Representative Max Miller, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ambassador. I'll try to keep it quick. It's probably been a long morning for you. So I'm just going to get right to it. Haiti is and has been plagued by endemic corruption, gang violence, and narcotics trafficking for decades. The earthquake in 2010 only exacerbated these underlying issues. Since the country is so close to the United States homeland, this chaos has prompted multiple United States interventions to restore order. All this instability has led hundreds of thousands of Haitians to flee. There are many estimates out there that claim that there are anywhere between 700,000 and 900,000 Haitian migrants living in the United States. And although we all can understand why they do not wish to reside in Haiti, they cannot remain in the United States forever. So it follows that the United States Congress, as well as the federal government writ large, has a vested interest in seeing some semblance of stability in Haiti. Naturally, the UN-led multinational security support mission was a nearly $1 billion failure, excuse me, I had to look at that number again, that allowed Haitian gangs to expand their control over their country. I hope that the new Gang Suppression Force is more successful, but even it has been in place for almost a year, and Haiti, well, it still looks like Haiti. I don't need to tell you this, but nobody on this committee or in Congress wants to see another United States intervention. That's why we need innovative solutions. You both are going to help us explore how to avoid and figure out how to stabilize this troubled country, so absolutely no pressure, gents, but appreciate you being here. Ambassador Kozak, Under UN Security Council Resolution 2793, the special representative was required to produce a strategy with concrete, time-bound benchmarks no later than 9 months after adoption. That deadline passed 3 weeks ago on June 30th, and no strategy has been made public. Was it delivered at all? Are its benchmarks genuinely measurable? And will you commit to providing them to this committee?
Yes, sir. My understanding is that the special representative did provide the UN Security Council and the Standing Group of Partners such benchmarks on June 29. So they exist. Colonel Gorkowski talked about them a little bit, and I don't see any reason we can't provide them to you. I'm not sure of that. I don't know what status they have.
Yeah. I trust your word, and I kind of knew the answer to that already. I just wanted for the people and the American people and everyone to hear that you are compliant and transparent and that you are willing to work with the committee, which I am grateful for. So thank you for that answer. Last thing for either witness, and then you're off the hook, and I'll get out of your hair. With my remaining time, I'd like to just briefly hear from both of you to understand what success looks like, but I'm more interested to hear what you think failure looks like. What does future of Haiti look like after a mission failure, and what does it mean for the United States? And please, if you can, be very candid. This is up for our constituents, and there has been a lot of misinformation about this context and topic.
I'll take a stab at it. I mean, when we came in and reviewed this to begin with, one of the options we looked at was, okay, can we just put a fence around it and say that we'll never be able to fix this place? The cost of doing that is astronomical. There's no way to, it's so close to the homeland, aside from the human cost, there's no good way to do it. So we really cannot fail to succeed in this mission. What I would say success looks like is that the gangs lose their ability to control and dominate big parts of Haitian territory, particularly the vital infrastructure, the airport, the ports, the roads that interconnect those with the cities, so that people can start to do business and get on with a normal life. So that's part of success. But the other part is getting a Haitian government that people have, that they feel they elected and can have some confidence in. That's been absent for some time. It's also having a Haitian security force that can hold those gains over time. We put a lot of money in over the years, but the one thing I've never seen was Haiti ever have a security force that came anywhere close to the size and the capability that they really needed. And then they start relying on gangs for things, and you end up back where we are today. So that would be my vision of what success looks like. But failure is that you end up with gangs basically taking over a failed state and operating, running drugs, running human trafficking, exporting all manner of chaos in the region and directly to the United States, and a huge, massive outflow of additional people who would be fleeing that chaos. So that's what we don't want to see.
Thank you very much. And Colonel, you can speak, but I'm over my time, and I just want to be conscious.
So just lastly, failure is very much this proto-insurgency tipping over into an insurgency. That is a worst-case scenario. 2009 Afghanistan, we had a ratio of security personnel to population that was about 108,000 people. We can't see that in Haiti. That is incredibly too much of a contribution. So there are four elements of the threat that have to be neutralized. I mentioned arms and ammunition, illicit revenue generation, safe havens, and alliances. Success for us is the removal from a security standpoint of all four critical elements of that gang lifeblood.
Awesome. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Very much appreciate your time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I go back.
Thank you. I want to thank the witnesses for their valuable testimony and for your service, and the members for their questions. The members of the committee may have additional questions for the witnesses, and we will ask you to respond to these in writing. Pursuant to committee rules, all members may have 5 days to submit statements, questions, and extraneous materials for the record, subject to the length and limitations. Without objection, the committee stands adjourned.